Welcome to Pilgrim on
The right
Wrestling.
wrestlers, and you have to have the right match. Like I've been thinking about, the lumberjack match, always an ineffectual, stupid match. I've never really seen a good one of those because they always end the same way. Or the scaffold match. Now I always thought the scaffold match. The point of the match is you have to get up on the thing, and then eventually somebody has to get knocked off. And I thought, and nobody likes doing them. No wrestler likes doing them, and they've never been that great. But
Ole Anderson, to me, had to be the example of the quintessential heel, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. No, he was.
Because.
And he was the exception to the rule, because usually a great heel is a super nice guy in real life, and he was a miserable prick apparently in real life as well as in the ring.
That's why he was so natural for it. But he was the quintessential.
What's going on, man?
Buddy, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm coming off a very a very fun trip, and already making plans for Miami Exotica, and I'm hopefully going to hear details or early details of going to Tampa next month to shoot with some Tampa talent.
Oh my goodness, that sounds beautiful. So with that being said, welcome to Pilgrim on Wrestling here in the Premium Smoke Room. I'm your host, Kevin Orvis of the Champ, and I'm here to introduce you to the host with the most, who knows how to make that dick hard so the girls can toast. We're talking about Billy. Pilgrim.
Thank you so much. Your kind words remind me of the old Peckerwood spiritual that my grandfather used to sing to me back in the day, and I think it went something like, "Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and hurt you, never gonna give you up." And that used to, when we got lost in the cul-de-sac between the Old Navy and the Starbucks, they used to sing that song out there, and that was code for make a left and a right, and it was hopeful times in a dark era.
Oh yes. And of course, people, you know that we are sponsored by XHypeBunny.com, LSWorld.com, as well as the wonderful Magazine.com. And man, you had a trip to Jacksonville. So wait, before you go into your trip for Jacksonville, I just want to tell you that I had the pleasure of interviewing and now mentoring a lovely lady I was telling you about by the name of Kelly Shin. Gorgeous.
She's very pretty, yes.
Everything. It was funny because I was just talking to her today. She said that she'll be shooting with Richard Mann. And I told her, I said, females don't realize that we do have an eye for talent, and we do see females that got that it factor. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like, what's what I'm looking for? Females don't be realizing how much we know about talent, yo. Who got
you
it?
Say she's working with Richard Mann?
Yeah.
I actually had to. Well, I'm part of a network. That's who I went down with the head of the little network that I'm now. That took me under. Yeah. It has taken me under their wing, and Mr. Nuts. I'm not sure if I should. That's his stage name. I call him by his real name, but I don't want to say it on the air because I'm not sure how often he puts that out. But Richard Mann is a part of Team VP Media, and I got the pleasure of working alongside Richard, and a very humble, quiet, polite, chill dude, and no sense of attitude or grandiose or nothing. And that's why when guys get in this industry and they want to act all cool or talk big shit, here's a guy who dick is so big, he literally turns whiter than me when he gets hard. They have to put makeup on his face. He gets whiter than me. He looks like my uncle when he, gets hard. And just chill and quiet. He didn't know me from Adam. Met me for the first time back in March, and talked and was just very chill. And this is a guy who's like a legend. He's in Hall of Fame, and this guy also has no chill. This dude works like this motherfucker works way harder than he needs to. He's working like he just got in the industry yesterday, and I was telling Mr. Nuts, I was like, I want you to tell me to slow down, Richard Man, just give me that opening, and I'm gonna be right there with Richard Man, going toe to toe, trying to put in work. But he's a great guy. That's why, I've met top talent, male wise, in the industry. I've had the opportunity to work alongside some of them, and I've met some really good male talent like Rico Blaze and Artemis and Dallas Strokes. And again, these guys are chill, and they're there to work. And that's why when these kind of wannabes or these fake talents show up and they're all fucking running their mouth and everything, I'm like, dude, you're not impressing me. If I'm standing next to Richard Man and he's saying please and thank you and giving me the time of day and just being chill, motherfucker, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by you and your whopping 10 scenes. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to, that's great that she's working with Richard Man, because Richard is a good guy to shoot with, and like I said, he has that reach.
Yeah. But see, the thing about it is that, and I'll tell anybody, is that the key to the business is that you want the girl when she hits you to be hot anyway, to a certain extent, because one is going to bring more attention. It's going to be more of an impact when you shoot with her. So it was like, that's why I laugh at motherfuckers that sit here and scoff. I want to be the first girl to shoot her. And then, no, them days died in like the late mid-2000s, especially when the 2020s hit. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be the first to shot her, because when they meant first to shot her, that meant she was the first you actually saw on video. Now girls being seen on video, webcam and the whole nine, so you're not actually the first motherfucker to even put on camera. Go ahead.
No, you're right. No, go finish your thought. Then sorry, I didn't mean. I was just going. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it's kind of like defeats the fucking purpose to be I'm the first one to shoot. I'm like, dude, no, you're not.
Well,
go ahead.
No, one of the skill sets I have that I'm trying to get in with studios that I kind of add to my resume is I have worked with a lot of girls. I'm literally their first time on camera, and I know how to work with somebody who's never worked on camera before and get them through a scene. So that's a particular skill. But I've worked with girls I worked with one particular woman that she went on to work for Score, and she credited me giving her the confidence. But, it was her first major scene. And of course, Score, because it's Score, I literally would give, like 3 fingers on either hand to work for them. They said, oh, her first time on camera, which it doesn't matter. Like, perception is reality. And also I worked with Abby. And Abby kind of, even though she had done stuff already, considered the shoot that we did the first time we met to be her first kind of quote unquote boy-girl scene. So in her mind, I was her first boy-girl scene because of the way our connection, but also the way I did things. And, again, I don't fuck around when I'm there to have fun, but I get, I want shit to keep rolling. Like, I don't have all day. I want to, let's get the shit done and let's roll, because the longer you drag shit out, the tired people get, and, so on and so forth. So I fucking, I fucking get shit done. And, so yeah, it's right. It's a state of mind. And I don't think the illusion of, unless you're really going to go out, and I worked with somebody recently that again, she's just a person that was like kind of became a fan, and then we wanted to fuck.
Mm-hmm.
We fucked, and then she wanted to fuck me on camera. You know, and she looks like your everyday, you like kind of mom. That, but you know, when you see a girl, yeah, you can get, depending on whoever, she could film 7 scenes. Whichever scene gets out first becomes the first scene that she ever shot.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if Team Skeet shot it first. If Brazzers could get the scene out first, guess what? That was her first poor girl. And, you know, it's just kind of, it's the idea of it, it doesn't hold as much weight as it once did. You know, I just think guys always crave something new, whereas I just want, like I said, I, you know, as long as they're showing up with with a good attitude and want to work, and they want to work with me, that's really all I require. You know, like I can, you know, I can find the beauty in any woman, you know.
Yeah. So. But see, the thing about it is, it's like I said before, it's like I would tell Kelly Shin, is that what girls must understand walking in, it's about the content. You can't worry about the paid gigs for so much, because one, there's not much of paid gigs left. So it's kind of like, how can I put it? There's not much paid gigs left as it is. So you want to have, like I told any girl, you want to have more content of you than they have of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, I've been a part of shoot houses where, you know, I'm the least in demand male talent because I'm newer or not what the type of talent the women normally, would be the proper way to say that sentence, shoot with. But, you know, and it kind of sucks not, you know, being the last picked at whatever in anything. But, you know, if you work with me, or if you come through Atlanta and you decide, like, you hit me up and go, hey, I'm going to be there midday Friday. How about Friday night to Saturday night? Let's film. You will get, even if we have to film ourselves, like, I will be there all day. I will show up on time, and you will get as much content, you know, as generated. Like, Plus Size Princess came to Atlanta, and for like 2 days, you know, we just shot a mountain of shit. And I said, you know, but I told her, it's like, I didn't want to overwhelm her with like being too constrictive or too whatever. But I said, look, you can kind of, you know, a lot of this stuff, you're not wearing anything, and it's in the same rough time of the day. You can edit this shit 7 ways from Sunday. Now, we did some actual, like, okay, this is the scene we're doing. But even then, I told her, I said, we filmed so much that you can re-edit this thing and make new stories and piece it together and so on and so forth, and put it up on new platforms as they pop up. And literally, it's the same fucking, you know, like, again, we just fucked all day. So I generate, like you said, content. Like, I'm there to make content. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of, you know, I love women. I love fucking, and I'm definitely in that moment and enjoying it. But I'm there to make content. I want to make you look good. I want you having a great reaction on camera, and I want to look good on camera, because, you know, it's a team effort. But at the same time, when I go home, I want this to raise my status. I want you to go back to wherever you come from and talk about me and have other girls want to work with me, and so on and so forth. So, you know, we're here for a purpose. You know, that's the other thing. If you're getting into porn for pussy, you need not to get into porn.
Oh no. And speaking about content, how was your trip to Jacksonville, my friend?
It was good. I went with Mr. Nuts, the team VP. He was talking about doing a series of these trips, like once a month, to different cities in Florida, and just working with talent that's either part of the network or like new talent, which I'm down for, because as I'm going to bring up later in my story, you know, I get along amazingly with Mr. Nuts and Carrie from Salacious Perceptions and G from Team VP Media and all the girls that associated. And these people have a wealth of knowledge and experience. And they, like I said, they kind of take me into the fold and taking me under their wing. They're kind of grooming me because, you know, because they see something in me. They're like the first group of people that, you know, actually said, "Oh, you're got talent, you got potential. Oh, you're white, and that's rare." Like if I had $1 every time that I said, "Oh, you're white, that's so rare," da 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 da, we would be doing this podcast through golden microphone, and then I never hear from them again. But we went to Jacksonville, and I got to work with Christy Wett again. If you guys don't know her, she is this MILF in Florida. She is hot as fuck. She is an amazing talent and really great to hang out with. I basically worked with her in December for the first time, and I've been itching. It's quietly pushing the producers like, when can I work with Chrissy again? And I got to work with her, and I told her, anytime you want me to come down to Jacksonville, just tell me, because she normally works with black guys, but there's a website. This is an interesting development. There's a bunch of female talent out there that really, their brand is they work with black actors, but there's a website out there that the fans are a little older and they're a little bit more vanilla, and they want kind of just your basic scene. So like a lot of these women are now working with me, and and then putting it on there. And weirdly enough, I'm becoming like a great seller, by default on this way. And the thing that sucks is that everything that I film for people that they put up apparently has been selling like hotcakes, and they won't let guys open up a platform, like open up a profile. It's only women that can open up a profile.
So it might be Southern Charms then.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, it is. It is Southern Charms. I'm apparently a very big.
And Southern Charms is fucked up for that shit. But no, see, the thing of it is, I tell people there's a market for vanilla porn.
Well, it opens.
To be honest with you, if the higher the level of porn you go, the more vanilla it gets.
Well, my thing is, it opens up another revenue because, in the sense, like same thing, like I'm good with working with first timers. I can now, like these producers, or I could present like, hey, I know you normally do this. I actually meant to talk to Havoc about this because we have some stuff together. But it's like, look, I now am a very popular male talent on this site, and everybody that has worked with me, is making money on this site. So that's another way of selling myself, in that if you're going to be on the site, or whatever, I generate a lot of sales. So I got to work with her a couple of times, not as much as I would like. And again, I'll get to that in 1 second. And then I got to meet and work with somebody I've been kind of having an eye on for a while to work with, a girl named Cammie Combs, and she was really awesome and great to work with. We did a couple scenes together, and I told her the same thing because I think she took a break and now she's getting back into it. And I was like, Jacksonville is just not even a day's drive. I can come down here for a couple of days and like in midweek on an off day, and we could just film and film and film. But I also finally got some photos done. I've been needing professionally taken photos forever and a day. And that finally got done. And I, again, Mr. Nuts dropped some very, sage knowledge because he's been doing this a long time successfully. And then I learned a very important lesson, and one that definitely need to keep on top of, because I get very focused on days of shoots. So a lot of stuff kind of flies by me because, I got to stay hard in all these weird situations, and you got to get hard. Like, okay, now, like a minute ago, you were talking about like the best place to get your oil changed. And now, like, get your dick hard. So I stay a certain type of focus. And we woke up and they were supposed to show up at a certain time. And of course they didn't. And then they were really late. And it was understandable. There was like an actual reason for it beyond their control. And I realized the problem is when you're around, I'm a weirdo, so I need my private time, like a lot of it in the course of a day. But when I'm around people that I don't mind, like I could be around these people all day and they never get on my nerves. So, the day kind of slowly, and then they finally showed up. And then the one photographer does a lot of photo shoots and he's really good at it, but it takes a lot of time. And, so time just kept clicking by, and I I had a banana and like maybe half a sandwich, and I'm kind of hungry, and then I'm realizing like things are starting to annoy me. Like, and these people are starting to aggravate me. And again, these are people you could lock me in a small room with for days and they don't get on my nerves. And like things are starting to kind of slowly irritate me. And I'm looking at the time and I'm like, okay, why are we moving so slow? We never move slow. Like, what the fuck's going on? I'm getting kind of cranky. And then I realized, like, oh shit, I haven't eaten anything all day. I'm hungry. But now it's past the point of no return. Like, now we're actually going to start shooting. And it was a very, like, very stop and start, which again, never happens with this crew. It's very stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Mm-hmm. And I was getting super cranky and aggravated, and I was not in the mood and everything. And we got through the scene, but the scene was very difficult to shoot. It was all on me. And I, really just was aggravated to no end. And again, nobody's fault. Nobody's doing anything. Again, this is like the greatest group of people that I think I've ever met in my life. And I was having a hard time getting through the scene, but we got enough of it. And then, got the money shot. And I'm very hard on myself. So I was not happy with my performance. I get very mad when I don't give the female talent.
So what was it that actually threw you off? Was it just they would take it forever or?
Well, really what it was I hadn't eaten.
Okay.
So like, again, the problem was we're all friends. So everybody's really relaxed and chill. So everybody was having a good time. And the day was just ticking by. And then, and again, moving slower than normal, which normally wouldn't have been a problem. But then, because I would have just done things to counteract the waiting, because I hate waiting. But all of a sudden, I slowly dawned on me, like there was nothing in this hotel room to eat. And at like one point, I even just ran out of beer. Couldn't, which again, you don't want to drink on an empty stomach. But I mean, like there was nothing in the apartment. And I was slowly getting annoyed. And then I didn't want to say anything because, again, I genuinely love these people. So that's making me more aggravated by not saying anything. So it all stemmed from the fact that I'm not joking, nothing eaten. And it was a very hard scene to get through. They were obviously they thought it was a great scene. They were just, because again, as Havoc, I'm notoriously hard on myself. I'm gonna
ask you this. So you can understand that thing. How many positions did you get done? Like, did you do?
We did like missionary and doggy, and like I think a little bit on the side. When I'm having difficulties on set, I just like, look, let's keep it simple. Either we need to stop.
Yeah, because riding, what people don't realize when it comes to riding a dick, your dick got to be strongly hard for that to be pulled off.
Well, it's just not even that, but just like, and the thing is. It's either okay, let's stop for 15 minutes and I'm going to take a shower and I'm going to try to have a come to Jesus meeting and I'm going to refocus my chi or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or we just need to power through it and we can't get too fancy. And anyway, they were happy with the scene. I was.
Well, I mean, of course they were happy because you got missionary, you got 3 positions.
Yeah.
Coming from. I mean, so because a great scene, a good scene is if you're able to get more than just blowjob and doggy style.
Yeah, and so I had a scene later that night to shoot with Cammy, and we went out to dinner finally, and it was terrible. The food was terrible. We went to a Texas Roadhouse, and I don't really eat at chain like restaurants, but the place was crowded. My food was ice cold, but I ate it anyway. And this is how hungry I was. I ate a steak and shrimp and mashed potatoes, and like the 2 pieces of broccoli, quote unquote, on the steamed vegetable that they gave me. And it literally, I did not even feel full. I just felt even out. Like I wasn't even. And but I noticed that's when I really realized, like, oh, it was the fact that I had nothing in my stomach. Because as I was sliding out of the booth, I started, and I'm looking at Cammy because she was having dinner with us. I started to get like half a hard on, and I felt like me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, oh, that's what it was. Like, I'm an idiot. Next time, like when we go down to Tampa, I'm going to make Mr. Nuts stop at a grocery store. And I'm going to buy a bunch of shit to keep in the room to make sure that I always have, because normally I eat very light the day of a set, but I eat something, but I had like, again, a banana and maybe like a half a sandwich, and it really did nothing. And we're talking about, we got up early that day too, and we didn't get to shoot until like 8 o'clock. So I enough like just 12 hours of basically eating nothing, and it affected me way more. And not only that, but it just made me like cranky and aggravated over shit that was literally nothing. And then I ate something, even though the food was garbage, and I didn't feel full. We went back to the room, and Cammy and I shot a quick scene, and it was perfect, like exactly how I'd like to shoot a scene. And I was like, son of a bitch. And I had come twice already that day, and I felt like I had just woken up, and I'm good to go. So it sounds absurd, but yeah, you want to make sure you eat something. Don't go bananas and like eat an entire turkey or something. But like make sure you eat something
that like have some chips and something.
Not even that, just like a sandwich, something light. Eat some eggs. Like eat something with some like a little bit of weight to it, but not much. But yeah, when we go down in Tampa, when I go to Miami, I'm staying at the host hotel, and the convention's connected to in the same building. I'm gonna check into my room, get in the car, go to the grocery store, load up, and then I'm not leaving that hotel until it's time to go back to Georgia. But yeah, make sure you have food, because honestly, it was like a night and day difference. I was actually kind of sweating it when I saw that Cammy came to join us for dinner, because I'm looking at her, I'm like, I don't know if I could do another scene. Like, I don't know what the fuck. And I ate this god awful food. And then, and again, like all of a sudden I'm getting, just like I have a hard on standing there, and I'm like, okay. That's what it was. Like, I really, cause I'd never been that hungry when I shot before, I've never been, but again, it was that, and I stay hyper-focused. Like I said, the smart thing would have been, since everybody was kind of dragging their feet anyway, would have been like, hey, I'm going to run to the Wendy's or something, or I'm going to go to the Kentucky Fried Chicken down the street. But I'm in the moment, and I'm so focused half the time that a lot of shit just kind of whizzes right by me.
See, with me, I'm the exact opposite. I don't eat at least before the first shoot. Or, let's say, for example, like if the shoot ain't to 12 o'clock, I'll get up early enough where I can eat breakfast and digest as well.
Well, normally on the day of a shoot, if it's going to be early morning, I'll wake up and I'll usually have like, I don't know, like a couple soft boiled eggs, and maybe some mixed greens with like a little bit of dressing, and I'm good. Or if it's going to be later in the day, I might have a sandwich, or I might just cook like a steak or like a piece of chicken and just have that. Because again, you don't want to be bloated. You don't want to go to like a McDonald's or something, or you don't want to go to like a sub shop and get like a 12-inch sub. So I just usually eat very clean, but something with a little bit of weight to it, so you have the energy. And again, fucking on camera is completely different than fucking in real life. And again, I was like, all right, you learned something from bad scenes. And I learned that, next time I'm going to make sure that I have stuff in the house for me to eat, because that will not be happening again. And I was just really surprised, because I felt like a completely different person after I ate dinner.
Yeah.
And ironically, she was a trooper. She had a long day herself, and she had to go home. That's what we kept the scene very simple. And we literally got in the door and just got right to it, and we knocked it out. But I didn't want her to go. I was like, if you can give me 10 minutes, we can. But that's the thing. That's normally how I feel, especially if the scene goes really well. I'm riding this high, and it's like, if you guys can fuck around with these lights quick enough, and you can reset that camera quick enough. Yeah, exactly. The bell's ringing. I could be ready in like 10 minutes. Like I'm ready to go. If everybody, and I'm not 18 anymore, but I'm fairly close to it. But that day I was like, and I kind of went and I did all the little tricks I do when I sometimes have a little bit of an issue, and it was just like, man, like it is not happening. I don't know what the fuck. And it's just, low blood sugar, whatever you want to call it. But the trip was great, and I'm very grateful to team VP Media because, like the shooting for Blush Erotica, all the different female talent that I've been working with. And, again, like I said, a feather in my cap that like I'm a big seller. The scenes I do with the female talent, now I can go to a female talent, go, especially if they do a lot of interracial. It's like, well, if you film, you can put it on here, and I can't put the scenes on there, and that has a very targeted audience. And like somebody, this is a little bit of a pat on the back for me, because unlike Porter Rock that's flying all over the goddamn country, working like 12 days in a 7-day week, I'm not that busy yet, so this is a little feather in my cap. They put up a new scene with me, and I forget who he said the other talent was, but he put it up in the morning, and by not even late afternoon, they already had like 7 sales. And I was like, see, that's right there. Again, that's what you want. You want the girl to enjoy the experience and want to be around you, and you want to, put money in her pocket too, as well as your own. Because if I don't make Cammy money, like I like working with Cammy. Cammy is a sweet, smart, funny girl, and I like working with her, and she liked working with me. But if I can't make her money, she's not going to fuck me on camera because, it's, it's fun to fuck you, but you're not making me money.
Because the higher the level you get, the more they pay attention to numbers versus with.
Well, and that's the thing. And that's the thing you and I always kind of, and I try to reiterate with people, with the guys. It's like, look, was it fun to fuck Cammy? Yes, it was. She was hot as fuck, and it felt great, and it was fun, and I would do it again whenever I get the chance. But she's a real human being and with a real life, and it's a job, and the job is I want to look good on camera, want to make her look good on camera, want her to make money, because if she puts the scene up and makes like 10 sales in a day, and that's just the first day, well, then she's going to want to work with me again. She's going to tell other female talent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like it's like in regular Hollywood, they tell guys like Billy Bob Thornton and Hugh Jackman and Matt Damon, you want to do your little indie passion project, you want to do these weird little character roles in these really small movies, fine. Every couple of movies, we need to see your face on the side of a bus. Meaning you need to do this movie where you destroy an asteroid. You need to do this huge blockbuster where you're able to control the weather. You need to, play a spy and blow up half a city. You do these big blockbuster movies. You make a lot of people money, and then they'll fund or let you go do your little Laurence Olivier like in your feelings roles. It's like you could be a great lay, and I've been told I'm a great lay, but you got to make people money, and you got to make the fans happy. And that's basically because, again, at the end of the day, it's business. That's why if you can't get laid in your real life, I would not, then I would not suggest porn for you, because you're not gonna be able to process it properly.
So with that being said, people, now we done caught up. We know what time it is. It's time for that pro wrestling smoke. And how we always start our pro wrestling smoke side of the show is with the sultry, velvet, raspy voice of one of the greatest of territory days, one of the Mount Rushmores of the commentating booth. We're talking about the great Gordon Solie. So welcome to the Gordon Solie Poetry Corner.
We've got it all.
Welcome, friends, and thank you for coming to my little corner of the wrestling world. I remember Jacksonville fondly. I remember one time I had to chase the American Dream around Jacksonville and tried to get him to put on pants. And,
oh my God.
And he kept screaming, "I'm the American Dream." And I was like, we know, Dusty, but this is not everybody's American Dream. Put on the pants. But we're not here for tales of the Crimson Mask Bat Wars. We're here for a little poetry. Headlines. The lines appear, cracking the visage, each one telling a different message. Happy lines by curved lips tell of smiles and laughter often heard. Pendicular lines so near the brow, worries then, forgotten now. Across the forehead, wavy lines speak of concentration and decline. Each line remains to tell a tale, increasing interest each man to know a life is told by lines, but they're yours or be they mine. And essentially, people are going to tell you your story in their own words. But what's important, folks, is that you're always the narrator of your own story. And that's my time. And, oh, there goes Dusty. Okay. Well, I have to go. And I want to thank Kavanaugh and Billy for allowing me once again to come on the show. And you just put on the pants. Okay, I have to go. He's, of course, he waits a happy hour to pull this. All right, thank you, Kavanaugh. And I'll see you all next week.
You better hurry up and catch him, because he might take off his underwear too.
Oh, if only he owned a pair.
And that was the Poetry Corner. Oh, man. I love doing this damn show.
Me too, man.
I love doing this show. So, before we get into the beef of the matter, because to let y'all know, we ain't doing much WWE. Like I said, except for discussing Sasha, and then we'll get to them in a minute. But we're going to start with Across the Pond and what I've been seeing across the pond. They finally put up the latest offering of Progress, which I was waiting for the match between the Black Swan and Spike Trevant. And you know something? Tony Khan or Vince, y'all need to go over to the party, sign these motherfuckers who's booking this shit, and put them as your booker. Because even to the setup of the match, Billy was classic. It was beautiful. Okay, as you know, they always have, like, you know, the people talk about the match before the match happens, the pre-match interview. So it's so-called Val, she's waiting, and she's talking to one of the commentators, and he's saying, I don't want to tell him. You need to tell him. So he comes in, and, you know, of course, they ask how he's doing about the match, what have you. And the thing about the Black Swan never talks. He never does a promo in the whole night. That what intrigues me about him. That he is so, that shows how great of a wrestler he is, that he doesn't have to do a promo, but yet he captivates you. You feel me? Very few wrestlers have that power and that ability. You know, at one point, Sting was like that when he first made the turn to the Crow Sting. You know, and even with Darby to a certain extent. So he was saying, yeah, y'all love him. He haven't said a word. He don't even talk. Why me? And talk my way to the main event. He said, there's somebody to tell you about. Like, what? You're not the main event. He said, says who? Says Cara Noir. He said, why? Cara Noir said, you don't deserve it. He walked off. Now, the match itself, Billy, was good. Now, I don't know who's going to lose this match, lose the lead. Now, my gut says Spike Trevant, but we'll get to that in a minute. They have the match. The match ends up being thrown out as a double disqualification because Spike Trevant, when he was getting choked out, first he punched when he was getting choked out, about to pass out, he punched the referee, knocked the referee out. So then when he about to get a pin, a new referee comes in, and then they start fighting. The referee trying to break it up. By the end of the match, they threw the referee out the ring, so he makes no DQ. They look at the referee, they look at each other. They look at the referee, look at each other. Then they start fighting again. But the whole thing of it is, yeah, the big brawl. They beat up security. Spike Trevant bit one of the security till he bled. So he had his mouth. So he had the image of this dude with blood in his mouth, right? And they break up the fight. So now, mind you, early in the night, he always talked about how Noir doesn't talk. Remember this, it's key to detail. Y'all want your thoughts. Key to detail. He always made mention, you never talk. You're silent. I want to show people the monster that you are. You never talk. So he said, and even to the point that the Black Swan's wife got in the ring because it got that chaotic, right? He made mention, he said, oh, so I see your wife decide to come down and watch the match. And this. He made some comment toward the right. So he said, yeah, we know you don't do promos. You get over and everyone loves you. You ain't even got to open your mouth or say a word. So he said, I'm going to make this. He said, both of us can't stay here. So if this is going to happen, I propose that I quit. Loser leaves town match. And he said, I want the first and last words you utter in progress to be, I quit.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And it's subtle.
What is wrong with the American bookers?
Well, it's a thing of it's that thing of like the constant action because again it's gone full circle in that originally they go, oh, you're a spot monkey and blah 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 and everything, and now it's gotten to the point where okay, you're athletic and you're this shape or you're this size and you could do it, and I care because it's like okay, again, Richard Mann, huge dick. Mr. Mysterious, huge dick. I have a big dick. It's like you're when you're in a shoot house, every dude has a big dick, and but that's the thing though. It's like, okay, well, Richard Mann has this kind of like quiet mystique, like Superfly smoothness about him. Mr. Mysterious is creative, and he has, like a comic timing, and he has a talent for acting, and he has a charisma. I have, my ideas and the stuff that I like to do. So that's what makes us different. If you want a big dick, you just point at eeny, meeny, miny, or mo. So it comes down to, well, okay, but why are you doing this? Or what's the moves? And also, that's the other thing, too. No one sells.
Your character.
But also, no one sells. So it's like, okay, yes, you're... Like, again, Andrade could do a flip, land perfectly on his feet, and then without missing a beat, do a backflip. Great. Mm-hmm. I'm more impressed that you got to... I'm actually more impressed that you got to tit fuck Charlotte's old huge tits before she got the reduction. I find that more impressive because that is a rare thing that one man on the earth got to do. That to me is more impressive, and and that you can tolerate Ric Flair's father-in-law. That's another thing I find impressive. You doing that, we got a 300-pound guy in the back covered with tattoos that could do that. I got a guy that's 157 pounds that could do that. I got an entire women's roster. Hell, my fucking announcer could do that. He's got hemorrhoids. The best example I could give you, and I've been watching the clip a lot lately. The thing that makes pro wrestling, the thing that is the magic behind pro wrestling, it's not the moves, it's not the fucking high spots or whatever other bullshit. Ron Simmons winning the World Heavyweight title from Big Van Vader in 92. Okay, that was because Sting got injured after a Great American Bash, and then they kind of just threw it together. They kind of rushed it, and they just decided one day they were going to do this. It was like on the fly kind of decision, if I remember correctly. And it happened on like one of their, I think it was like their B show. And I don't even think Jim Ross knew, because by his reaction, either he is just the actual greatest, or he really didn't know, because I know he doesn't like to know all the details of like the finishes. So Ron Simmons beats Big Van Vader. Now, anybody listening to this show, and I do promise, I will put it up on the Twitter. I know I've been saying that. I'm not going to lie. The Twitter's kind of got quiet, and it's my fault. We're going to fix that today, but I'm going to put the clip on the Twitter today. Don't watch the actual pin. When you watch the clip, listen to Jim Ross and watch the crowd, okay, and watch their reaction, and try to find the clip where they do a close up of a face of this black kid, and he's crying. He's literally crying like his mom was just released from a hostage situation because he watched, a black wrestler, a fan favorite, win the world title. And they, of course, they spun it as he was the very first world champion. But that moment, that response out of the crowd, that kid being brought to tears, it was not the moves in the match. It was the story they were telling in the build-up, in the interviews, or in the match. They knew they set it up the right way, and they did it in such a sudden, quick way. Everything down to the way Vader, struggled to get free, and Ron Simmons's reaction. The second he realized he won, and his genuine reaction and everything, that is pro wrestling. It's not the Young Bucks. It's not the Young Bucks doing their fucking Meltzer driver. It's not Kenny Omega doing his little pointing, little standing, I'm a maniac, running before he hits the ropes. And it's not fucking CM Punk coming out and doing his little clobber time and all that other shit. It's the genuine emotion that you bring out in the people. It's losing yourself. It's like, look, I know CM Punk is brother-in-law to Adam Page, and he's married to his sister. And we had literally saw a picture of them at Thanksgiving dinner, the night before, hugging and being all family and chummy. But they're in a blood feud, and they're killing each other. And Punk has been chasing this world title for months, and he finally and they built it up to the point where, holy shit, they're really gonna send the crowd home unhappy and piss everybody off. And then all of a sudden he wins, and it's a big emotional moment. When you can convince people that are in on the joke to fall for the punchline, that is storytelling. Okay,
because me, I think this what it is to me. And this is what I like about the storyline. They pay attention to so much detail that he doesn't even call him Cara Noir. He calls him by his real name.
Yeah.
Period. And now the question is, because I don't think Cara Noir is leaving Progress. Something just tell me he's not. Because I don't see him fitting NXT UK. Not the way that they do things. I think it's going to be Spike Trevant that's going to take the loss, because I don't know if Cara Noir would want to lose that mystique of him talking, plus of his popularity. But with Spike Trevant, I could see him moving on to NXT UK because of his character. Actually, if you want to go there, I see him be the one that actually win the belt for Illinois Dragunov, because he will make a great UK champion from his talk game and just the way that he is. As long as they don't change him. One thing I like about NXT UK, they don't change the people that comes in, and they don't change their name. You feel me? Samuel Shaw is Samuel Shaw. When Rampage Brown came in, he was still Rampage Brown. All the people still kept their name for where they came from. Now, when they went to NXT 2.0, toward the restore, because I'm still waiting for them. If A Kid is still in 2.0, they're going to change his name to something else. But go ahead, what you about to say?
No, it's just, you're right. It's just details. It's like little details. It's like telling any kind of story on a TV show, on a movie, anything. And wrestling fans, and that's why I don't like. That's one of the many reasons why I don't like the WWE product. They treat their fans like they're idiots. Wrestling fans are not dumb. They're actually very smart, and they're into a lot of things. They're into video games. They're into anime. They're into shows like fucking The Walking Dead and this, that, and the other thing. Stuff that has an ongoing storyline, or the stuff that's like it has an expansive universe unto itself. These people can hold a thought and watch. And I don't know who necessarily is to blame, if it's the wrestlers, if it's the booking, the executives, whatever, or the fact that there are fans out there that just want dumb, bad comedy and like spots, and that they, much like in politics, are this like small minority that are just ridiculously loud and annoying, and people just don't want to yell over them. But a big thing, which is why Punk, Danielson, MJF, and like these guys, even Roman and now Edge, their stuff stands out, and it's not so much because that they've been doing it a long time. It's because they're making the effort and are like, look, this is what we're doing, and then this is going to be the middle, the beginning, and the end. And that's the thing. Like again, this is hey, this is a wrestling podcast, but the novelty is we are porn stars, and and there are a lot of similarities between the two industries. But when I make a plot, I just came up with a couple ideas, and I'm really excited about that. I want to shoot in Miami. We have to start this way. And while we're in the middle of the scene doing it, we need to stay in that character. We can't all of a sudden just start like we're leading up to this type of sex, and then we just do something else. And then at the end, oh, yeah, this is the last line of the scene. It makes no sense. There's no continuity. You need to give the details to the fans. And one of the things I was going to address today is that AEW, as much as I like a lot of stuff about their product, it's not been the same since the last pay-per-view. They've really lost a step, and the show is becoming more noticeably hodgepodgey. And basically with guys leaving Progress or WWE or NXT or any of these other companies, depending on who he gives the day-to-day running of Ring of Honor to, because Tony, if you ever listen to this, you do not have the ability to run this many companies. It's either going to be Ring of Honor or even Impact, to where these guys are going to go because there's room, they're going to be used, and their show will have some type of continuity. Like the whole show in and of itself has to have continuity, and then everybody else like needs to be doing their part. And there are a lot of wrestlers, because AEW will just sign people, then okay, go home and sit home for 6 months. WWE will use you, but like, here's a pair of tap shoes, a tutu, and a butt plug with a raccoon tail. Go out there. You're the executioner. And it's like, wait, what? Yeah, you're the executioner. Go out there and be mean. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, okay, sure. I'll try. Tap, 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 tap. It's just that kind of level of, that thing I would like. And Punk and Danielson are the proof in the pudding of some storyline, some emotion, some consistency. And there's a lot going on in this country that you can fucking play off of if you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think it's fucking ridiculous that Punk, I think it's great that he does it, but like the fact that they don't address it, that it never comes up. He comes out there in his pro-abortion t-shirt, which we are pro-choice here on the Pilgrim on Wrestling podcast.
Yes, we are.
And, nobody addresses it. No one says anything. And I'm like, motherfucker, here's a guy with the balls to come out in basically, in my opinion, what is a foreign country, comes out. Texans are to Americans what the Basque are to the Spanish. It's like, oh, fuck, what are they doing again? Really? No. Oh, so like address it, bring it out. I'm not saying have a pro wrestler that's like pro-choice and make that his gimmick, but like, just do something, like be a little bit more realistic. Yeah, it's just, there is it's becoming more apparent, especially when now people like Progress, Punk, and like there's like a little bit slowly happening, and it's really shining a light on how a lot of people like the Bucks have really, in my opinion, they got their big chance and they have dropped the ball. I saw their little outfits. I saw pictures and I'm like, really, guys? You're just gonna Elvis yourself, huh? You're gonna basically become Elvis and then become Elvis impersonators, huh?
Yeah. But now, speaking about, since you brought up AEW, because they did have a pay-per-view, it's their big pay-per-view that just passed. It was yesterday as we recording this. And first of all, goddamn, that motherfucker was long as shit. They have to imagine he'd be on there, in my opinion. For example, the Kyle O'Reilly, Darby Allin match, I loved it, but it didn't need to be on there. The TBS title match shouldn't have been on there. Honestly, the TNT title match shouldn't even been on there. I would have been fine with the Owen Hart. I would have been fine with the tag team match. I would have been fine with the title match, with the world title match. I would have been fine with even their Stampede match that they had with Jericho and them, and the women's title match. But a lot of that, man, they could have left off. It was fucking damn near, what, 5 hours? They didn't even need they could have did Hook and Danhausen another day, but go ahead.
No, I kind of didn't get the pay-per-view because, one, it's like $50, and honestly, the whole thing going on with NJF and you know, and all that, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but like, I'm sorry, I'm really over and not interested in multi-person matches anymore. And if you're going to basically, and I'm sorry, I don't mean copyright. To quote Jim Cornette, this was probably the Super Bowl of lazy booking, where pretty much every match on the card was just these multiple person melees, and it's like, I'm not interested in that. Like, you take somebody like Eddie Kingston, don't bury him in a fucking 8-person match. Put him in there with somebody that he can do promos on and actually give you. The guy looks like an out of shape stepdad, but the dude fucking goes.
But I saw that image he had at the end of the match, though.
And
man, that shit was powerful.
I don't know, man. I was just really turned off by this card because I'm over it. Like, that's another thing American wrestling needs to stop and change. If you cannot tell a story or generate wrestlers that can hold the attention of the crowd to have a one-on-one match, especially when they're the champion, then that wrestler, either your booker or your wrestler, don't need to be there. I would love nothing more if they banned multi-person matches for any title match at the minimum. If I ran a company, there would be no multiple person anything when it comes to a title match. It's like one tag team, one whatever. And if you have that big of a roster, they're big boys. They're on guaranteed contracts. It'd be like, hey, guess what? Some of you are not gonna. We're gonna have an 8-match pay-per-view. Some of you ain't gonna be on it. You might be on the next one. You may not be on one until the end of the year, but you're still getting paid. So keep your bitching and complaining to a minimum. I just was not interested in this pay-per-view. It had no sense of bigness, and it kind of felt like, even up until the end,
because not every match had a great build. You know,
none of them really had any build. I mean, like I said, I think it started to wear on him because, again, the show is very hodgepodgey in that one thing is really great, and then, you know, and then again, stupid rules of like no rematches or, you know, this, that, and the other thing, and the dude needs to take away again, I'm going to keep saying it, but the guy needs to take away power from Omega and the Bucks as far as booking. And then he needs to consolidate everything. And then he needs to go to whatever, like, again, a Regal. He's there and he's only managing. Go to a Regal. Try to get, what's his name? Fuck. He was the NWA champion. Adam Pearce. Try to maybe lure Adam Pearce away. He was a booker. Delirious.
I'm sorry. Go across the bond and get them bookers over there.
I was just about to get those guys.
The reason why I'm saying that is that even though they treat wrestling differently than we treat it here, and which in turn makes their booking be treated, because they really care about dotting the I's and crossing the T's, not like over here, you know, period. Like, for example, which let's get into the pay-per-view a little bit. One of the matches that I felt that I didn't need to see was the Hardy Boys versus the you know, I'm about to say Dudleys, the
Hardys.
The Young Bucks, Hardy versus the Young Bucks. One, that match is not going to work because they can't work the Young Bucks style. And the Young Bucks, I give them credit, they can work the style, but it's kind of like the Hardys don't want to change up their style for their age. Like when I look at Ricky Morton, he changed up his style for his age. You get what I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Even when we saw Stone Cold, if Stone Cold became a regular again, we know what we're gonna get with Stone Cold because his style is gonna fit what he can do at the age he's at now. Period. So to me, that match was not going to hit as good. Period. Because Styles does make matches. And that's facts. But I think the problem is that now if they had a better build up and somebody was like, well, look, y'all can't do what y'all was doing when y'all was Team Extreme. Y'all need to dummy it down a little bit more. And whatever you do, you make it meaningful. That whisper in the wind need to hit at a certain part of the match. They don't need the high fly but so much. Period. It's like y'all not aging well with what y'all doing versus what I've seen other people, at the end of the day. And then, like I said again, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's just how I look at it with their match. It's like the build up that they're doing is not making the matches more meaningful. And then on top of that, the way the matches, in that case of that match, the way that it went down, it didn't look good nor fit because the Hardys can't do what they used to do. And people are scared to tell them, look, bro, y'all might need to change up your shit a little bit. It ain't working.
Well, not just that, but like, again, Punk now has a title, which thank fucking Christ, because you basically, I'm sorry, you've done a better job than probably most people would do, going from not being a booker to booking a live national TV show for 2 years. But if anything indicates that you should not be booking, let alone your wrestlers, is this Punk Adam Page thing. You literally went from we're not taking the belt off this fucking clown to all of a sudden one day, like, he leaves work on on Wednesday and he's like, all right guys, see you later. Hey Uno, I'm gonna make those cupcakes for your kids, bake sale and everything, and Thunder Rosa, don't forget, I'll give you that ride to the airport on Saturday. Don't worry. Tell your mom I said hi. Showed up on Friday and it was like, fuck all of y'all. Like, hey Paige, I fucked your daughter in the ass on the way in here. What's she been doing? And she was looser than a fucking broken Band-Aid. Wait, what? And then Punk was just kind of like, all right, like basically just kind of big timing him and just kind of was not taking him seriously. Beat him on the first try. And now Punk, I believe, has the creative power to go, no, you're not going to all of a sudden bring back Stu Grayson to be my number one contender. Like, that will not be happening. I'm going to have a real opponent and a real feud. But it was just, it basically...
Now, since you went there, spoiler alert if you haven't seen, Punk is now the world champion, which shouldn't even be hard for people to figure out. But here's the kicker. Where do we go? Where did Punk go next now?
Well, I'm sure he has an idea. I'm sure he knows where.
Well, let's play Monday morning quarterback.
Well, Punk could also, because again, Punk knows wrestling. I think he'll probably want to have a rematch. And I really would love to. I'm not even being sarcastic. I would love if I ever.
It's open for that because the way that the match ended, and by the way,
how'd the match end? I didn't
match. I'm not even going front for what I saw.
What I again, unfortunately, we're adding improvements to the show, but we're not at a stage where I'm just going to throw $50 at a pay-per-view where I feel like not only am I never going to watch this again, but it's not going to be good to watch the first. But what happened at the end of the match?
No, the way it went down was he had the match won. Adam Page had the match won, but when the referee got knocked out, he decided to go for the belt. to try to hit him with the belt. And he had that, okay, should I do it? Should I not? And with that hesitation, when he did go for the butt shot, he got caught with a GTS. So it opened it to where, because I decided to still be that good guy. So now, see, I see what Tony is doing. Tony used this pay-per-view to build feuds heading to the next one and the feuds going down the line. When this supposed to have been a finalization pay-per-view. You get where I'm coming from? Because of, like, for example, you had Amber Moon come out. You could have waited to Amber Moon. You could have debuted Amber Moon Wednesday on Rampage. Wednesday on Dynamite on Rampage. You brought her out. And you put her dead in the face of Jay Cargill, which means that you're already saying her and Jay Cargill are going to beef. Plus, add Stoker Hathaway is now the manager of her and the Baddies, which I actually like that clique. Let's make that clear. That's the finest clique, female clique, in all of our elite wrestling. There is three fine-ass black chocolate sisters there. Jesus, boy. Especially that Tara Hogan. My God, Cara Hogan's my baby. But let me stop lusting for him for a minute and get back to the wrestling. The point being is, that's what it seemed like he's doing. He's setting up feuds down the line, even with the TNT title, how that went down. But like I said, back to the main event, is that with Adam Page, he set it up for Adam Page to go heel. Because Adam is going to look at it and say, if I went ahead and hit the motherfucker with the belt, I would have won. Me hesitating being a bad guy because I wanted to be fair cost me. Now, what they could do is bring it back for a rematch, and he loses, which in turn makes his downward spiral to him becoming a heel.
Well, and also, I think, as I was going to say, everything you said was spot on, but I hope you're right about what he was trying to do with this pay-per-view, but
I mean, that would like, because it named one thing that was finalized.
Like I said, I kind of didn't. I just did not want. I just came back from spending money.
I'm sorry. You didn't watch it. See, what you have to start doing is, if you don't get to see it, just go on WrestleZone or Wrestle Inc. and just read the recap.
Yeah, well, I did. I just, I did get a sense. I don't know. Like I said, I just came back from spending money on a work trip. Plus, also, here's the thing. Here's the other thing Tony needs to understand if you're going to be a booker, and I will say this for the WWE. If you're going to still try to charge people in the era of a streaming channel, and you're going to try to charge me $50 for your pay-per-view, then you really need, just like when we put together a scene, I have to have somebody else do the post-production because I get in my own way because I want to charge $20. I would like to build it up to the point in my career where I could charge somebody $25, but I, in my own head, have to go, well, this needs to be worth $25. Like, I need to get the angles. It needs to be shot a certain way, the lighting, then the post-production. And then I try to edit. And I'm like, no, if I'm going to take somebody's money, they better be rushing to get home to jerk off to this so Tony needs to, dude, $50. I mean, even if I didn't go on the trip, I'd still be hesitant to pay because I was not interested in this fucking train wreck of a card. Mm-hmm. And honestly, you were spot on with everything, but I would love, if I ever get to meet Tony, I'm very politely going to ask him, like, dude, please. But
here's the thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just explain to me, please, Tony, your aversion to rematches. Because, yes, give him a rematch, let him lose, let that be the final deal in his turning heel. Yeah. But honestly, take him off TV for a couple months because the dude has, the Bucks have go home heat or change the channel heat. Adam Page, honestly, I don't even give a fuck. I'm not even gonna. My stove is off. I don't give a fuck. Like, he's a fat-faced, ridiculous rhinestone cowboy-looking jackass, and I don't fucking care. I don't care about his wrestling. Like, it's gonna take a minute to rehabilitate all this damage you two have done to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because to the point, I heard some podcasters, people said that he was practically a transitional champ.
Well, I don't think that was the original intention. I just think
though, because it's kind of like this is what I think what hurt him, other than them doing the rhinestone cowboy shit. He didn't have no credible contenders, because the credible contenders that other than Brian Danielson. Oh God, but he's still trying to work on that. There was nobody that was built up that could actually be world title contenders.
And that's the fault. That's not his fault. That's the fault of AEW and Tony Khan.
Because I said this again. Why in the fuck is the Murder Hawk even in the conversation for a title match? Because the motherfucker ain't never won a big match since he been there.
I'll trump you. Why the fuck was Dante Martin? Here's the funny thing. I'm a more realistic contender for the AEW title than Dante Martin. You know, that's like saying I put the tip of my penis.
I would have, if I was going to feed somebody to him, I would have fed him Ethan Page.
I would have fed him Dante Martin, and I would have had to beat Dante Martin in under 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I would have done a 1-episode program with the Murder Hawk where Adam beats him.
Yeah, that's it. Then it should have been no whole program for like 3 shows.
No, I would have done a 1 minute. I would have done a 2-hour episode where, from beginning to end, where the Murder Hawk tried to jump in line and try to reestablish his authority and his dominance, and then build up throughout the show like they used to do in the old days, and then with a match on the card, because you know what? Because now he's pissed. And he's like, fuck it, you're not going to attack me and try to punk me, motherfucker. You know who I am? I'm the AEW champion. And then have a match, keep the match to 10 minutes or under, and he beats the Murder Hawk, and then that's it. And then you bring the Murder Hawk back, and then you let him on regular rotation. But here's the deal. At the end of the match, it was all a ruse, because his now new rival to the title comes out and attacks him and beats the fuck out of him. And that person is somebody who at least is either, one, coming from another company and has some hype behind him, or I don't know, somebody who's been on. It would have made more sense to make Uno the first challenger, because at least he's been on fucking television.
Yeah. See, like I said, they really did botch up his title run in many ways. And like I said, this is going to definitely be the Summer Punk. I see that. So we're going to move on from the main event. We brought up the Owen Hart tournament. Interesting how they had everybody's favorite couple win the perspective size of the tournament. What do you think about
that? I don't know. I mean, I think they're trying to rehab Adam Cole after fucking burying him and dropping the ball so hard on him. And I think they're trying to rehab him, but the tournament didn't, I'm sorry, all due respect to I was an Owen Hart fan back when he was wrestling in Japan and doing occasional spots on WCW 605. I basically followed Owen from his beginning of his career through the magazines and then on the, various wrestling shows. The tournament, honestly, didn't mean shit. And again, not every time.
Which goes back to across the pond. Their tournaments mean something. What happened to tournaments meaning something over here? What the fuck happened? Because it was like, if you want to be honest, like with the Owen Hart tournament, I know there's something they're gonna want to do annually. What can they do to make it mean more? Because it was kind of like, okay, we knew that Britt Baker was going to win because Britt is the best thing going in the women's division right now. Thunder Rosa kind of brought her face back up because of who she wrestled with Serena Deeb. But What could they do moving forward to make this tournament a little bit more important? Because it seems like any tournament, there's no important tournaments here in the United States as far as wrestling. Now, when I think about Europe, you got the 14 carat tournament, big tournament, big name, big game feel for Westside Extreme Wrestling. The Strong Style 16 tournament has been big for them over there with Progress, and now they're about to crown the next Progress champion through it, to the point that they got top talent coming over there to wrestle. You got Johnny, well, he's now going to be known as Johnny Progress. He's going to be in the tournament with Jack Evans as well as Swerve Strickland and a couple other people that's from over here. Why is that these tournaments just don't mean shit no more?
Well, because one thing, and this is probably not going to be a popular thing with the fans, but this weird showboating. I'm blanking on the proper word, so forgive me. But this need to, here's one for the boys, and here's the same thing for the girls. No.
And let me make that very clear before you finish. He brought up a very important point. There's no woman tournament over in Europe. Proceed.
Well, here's the deal. Like, okay, the most coveted trophy in all of sports, really, regardless of opinion, really is the World Cup, because it happens every 4 years, once every 4 years, and you're playing literally the world. And as a soccer player, as we say in America, or a football player, you may get one chance, maybe two in your entire life and or career to compete for this. And hell, you may not, I mean, your country may never even qualify. Ireland, who I rooted for so many years ago, has not been in since I think 2002. So there's no guarantee. Now, I think what they should do is 1 year, the men, and only the men. The next year, the women. So basically, if you're a man, you got to wait 2 years to your chance to win the Owen Hart tournament. And if nobody likes it, basically be like, hey, because I'm sorry, it's really starting to diminish, because essentially
because you really what it seemed to me is that you're basically thinning the attention that you can put to it.
But because basically you just pay. That's what it was. You're paying lip service. Oh, you got the guys have a Hell in a Cell. Well, the girls could do it. Like, well, here's your Hell in a Cell. Here's your Elimination Chamber. Here's your Royal Rumble. It's like, look, something like the Royal Rumble, it makes sense. Everything after, okay, the men are going to have the Elimination Chamber. You're supposed to be creative. Think of something that it's the women only. Give them their own big match. Give them their own big event, because all you're doing is going, well, here you go. And then here you go. Like, just, yes, you could totally have whatever. And the funny thing is, the girls, 9 times out of 10, could go better and harder than the guys. But it's like, I don't need to see two of this match in the same night. So, like, I would have it every other year. It'd be men or women. And then the other thing they do in this country, which I immediately makes me not give a fuck about the tournament, is they and again, it's not the fans' fault. It's the fucking promoters. They spread it out over weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And they fill it with ringers. Because there's certain matches you go, there is no fucking way there's going to be an upset in this match. So I think they should make it a pay-per-view. They should honor him. And it should be a 8-man tournament with all top talent, where you kind of and have it stacked to where I really don't know who's going to fucking win this thing. Like, you know, and again, these guys are getting paid guaranteed contracts. You get them all in the fucking room and you go, look, we're taking the 8 top guys we got. We're going to take the guys that no one thinks can lose, and we're going to take 8 guys that everybody can see winning this tournament, and we're going to put you in the tournament, and 7 of you are going to lay on your back, and you're going to fucking lose because I'm fucking paying you, and that's your job. Like, you don't allow for, like, well, my character wouldn't lose. Like, well, your character also wouldn't be on the unemployment line. So what are we talking about here? So
and then the other part of that is too, what do you win?
Well,
do you get a title shot? Do you? It's also the stakes makes the tournament as well.
Well, here's the thing. There's a couple different things you could do. It could just be like a huge trophy where you actually engrave like a Stanley Cup. You can also do the stereotypical thing of like the person gets a title shot. If you really want to push it, I think it was All Japan every year.
Mm-hmm.
They would have a big tournament. I forget which one it was, because they do big, huge tournaments every year, tag and singles. And they sometimes take a full month, but be like, okay, well, pick a title and what they would do is like the tag titles is like, all right, where was the champion? Even if you just won them, they would have to vacate the belts, and the winner of the tournament became the new champions. You could do something like that. Yeah. Actually, hold on a second. You could also, speaking of the every year rule, it could be women, it could be singles, it could be tags. So if you lose if Joe lost a tournament, he's got to wait 3 years to get his win back. Mm-hmm. But have it in one night, and then have all those matches, and then maybe like one world title match, or maybe, or better yet, have the world champion be in the tournament and say the women heavyweight champion title match is going to be the main event, and have like maybe one really high end tag match, and that's the card. Make it the focus when you spread out a tournament. But in order, and also I know what some people are probably saying, well, Japan does these month-long tournaments. I'm like, yeah, but here's the deal. They do a round robin style.
Yeah, it's not single elimination.
It's round robin.
It's rankings. It's you win-loss. Right. Literally wins and losses really matter in them terms.
Yes, exactly. And they use the World Cup style of setting up the tournament, which, like you said, the wins count, and it's basically like the G1 is their World Cup, and they do it a round robin. And here's the thing: for the entire month of, sake of argument, August, when they go on tour and they're doing all the cards, there is no like regular cards and like here's the one tournament match. The entire card is the fucking tournament. So for the next month, if you're watching it on TV or if you go see them in your town or the next town, you're watching the tournament and you have to keep track. Like there is no, John and Steve are having this feud. Well, John and Steve are now in the tournament, so they have something else to worry about for the next month. So unless they meet each other in the tournament, that's on hold because they want this rich prize. So you either got to make it important and stop everything you're doing and make it the tournament, or do it in one night. And the only way it takes time to make something a big deal. The Battle of Los Angeles is the Battle of Los Angeles, the Super 8. These are tournaments in the U.S. that are a big deal. I think the Super 8 has fallen off a little bit, but the Battle of Los Angeles before the pandemic
was one of the hottest tournaments.
That was the tournament, and they did it over 3 days, and as the shows went on and people were eliminated, they would have like undercard matches, but like for the first 2 nights, the majority of that card was all the tournament. And it was a big fucking deal because the guys that won that thing went on to do big things. And that's the deal. When they win the Owen Hart Cup, they get their name on that trophy for the rest of existence. That signifies like, hey, this dude's going to be a big deal. I mean, you gotta make it important and present it as important for me to take it as being important. Just putting Owen's name on it and then doing basically what the WWE does with their fucking tournament. I'm sorry, you dropped the ball. I didn't give a shit about who won the tournament. I think Joe should have won the tournament. And I honest or what's his face? The other Undisputed Era, blanking on his name for some reason. Kyle O'Reilly should have won the tournament. I think, this tournament didn't do anything to rehab Adam Cole, unless you're going to make him and his girlfriend stable unto themselves. It's just spreading it over weeks and drawing it out. And again, okay, you won the tournament. Now what? What now? Fucking what? Who gives a fuck? That's the thing. It has to be a level. It has to be a big deal. It has to raise the level of somebody. You need to make matches in it that it's like, okay, it's Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe. Like, holy shit, who's gonna win this? It's Dax versus MJF. Like, okay, well, who's gonna win this? You know,
Yeah,
you have to.
they didn't use the people that really would have made it blockbuster.
It's not even using the. It's again, it's the presentation. Like you were saying, to go back to your point, are you going to make me care? You can't just put. I don't give a fuck how big the tits are. I don't give a fuck how great her ass looks in those shorts. I don't give a fuck how much Hobbs can bench press, and I really don't give a fuck how many flips Sammy Guevara can do. You put them in the ring, and yes, they're going to give me their best effort, but there needs to be something surrounding the reason why Hobbs and Guevara are going to wrestle. There has to be stakes, and then the guys themselves have to tell a story. You know, that's why, like, you know, again, it's basically you're selling me Gonzo wrestling. You know, Gonzo porn has its place, but what, you know, really sells is stuff where it's like, here's a little bit of a plot to give it a reason. And again, and they're going to fuck like this because this is the lead up to them having sex. And then here's closure. If you're, you know, you got to make a fucking effort. Like, I'm done with the, he came from WWE. He's in AEW. He's all elite. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. All right. And you've proven that you can't make the most of this. So what do you got for me? And oh my God, he beat. I'm like, yeah, it took 7 finishers for him to beat this guy who's like an underneath guy, and I care because. And now he's going to challenge for the title. Why? He just showed up yesterday. Why the fuck is he even? Why is he allowed to talk to the champion? I'm like, I'm sorry, but clearly.
That's one thing I do say about AEW that they do right. They make the motherfucker earn their shot versus just giving it to them when they walk through the door.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you by earning, that means winning, and they got to be people that matter. You start them off with a few people that don't really matter, but then. You know, there's a way, again, it goes back to the art of wrestling. There's a way of taking a guy like Hobbs and having him lose to a Matt Cardona who just came in without making Hobbs look like a bitch. You know, like, you know, that's why cheating was invented. That's why circumstance or whatever, like that's the art. These guys going to come in. Eventually we're going to give him a big push and put the belt on him. So, here's Hobbs, who one day you're going to put the belt on because that motherfucker is money, but he needs to lay down tonight. You can do the whole thing and the whole setup so that, yes, he's going to lose, but you could add an extenuating circumstance. You could add just it wasn't his night. You could make him look strong, you know, like, and just he's new. That was his big thing. His superpower was he wasn't here yesterday. And then he beat the guy that we invested all this money in and we've been trying to build up. Oh, my God. How long will the power of new last? Not long. So fucking try. And that's the thing. I think Tony's getting burnt out because he thinks he's this Superman. And I laughed. I audibly laughed. And I still laugh. And I'll tell him to his face. And I'll tell any wrestling fan or WWE fan to their face. There is no fucking way that Tony could book AEW and Ring of Honor at the same time. Not going to happen. The wrestling, it'll be basically a shittier product than the WWE product. And that's saying a lot.
Oh, yeah. So now we're going to move on. Stokely Hathaway.
What about, we got to talk about MJF and all that.
Yeah. That's the best part. Okay. MJF, of course, before his match, did a no-show to a meet and greet. They couldn't get in touch with him, and he showed up. I understand he showed up right on, I guess, time, per se, or what have you. People saying that it's work. At first, it wasn't a work, but then it's work. But anyway, he had his match with Wardlow. Wardlow, of course, wins. Basically, practically a squash, to the point that MJF was carted off with an oxygen mask over his face. So, a lot of people saying it's work. What do you, everything that went down that whole weekend, what do you think was it a work? And because we've been hearing about he wants to renegotiate his contract. He have issue with the contract. Him and the boss man. The boss man really didn't want to talk about him during the scrum. You know, what do you think?
Well, one, given what MJF has done and what he can mean to the company, the fact that there are certain people in this company making more money than him is criminal. Like, you need to renegotiate. Like, you know, if that's what it's going to take, I would renegotiate. I would, and if any, I mean, again, there's like a bunch of different ways you can handle a negotiation, but there are wrestlers actively making more money than him right now in AEW, and that should not be. Like, the fact that Adam Page is making more money than MJF, that is criminal. I'm sorry, but there is no way. If I had to pick one, you wouldn't even finish the sentence of telling me to pick one before I would fire Adam Page to his face. I'd be like, you're fired. Okay, you give, this guy has earned, and this is, you know, again, he has 3 years on the contract. So now roughly is the time when somebody's doing a great job that you would kind of renegotiate to, you know, and again, you start, and usually the rule for negotiation is if you're going to start a smoke production company and you were like, look, Billy, I want you to be exclusive only to me. And I was like, all right, I want $1,200 for every scene I do. Really what I want is like $700. I just want to be busy, but I'm going to start at $1,200 and then I want this, this, and this, and then slowly dial it back. And you were willing, you know, you're willing to pay like $9, but like, hey, let this motherfucker, if he wants to talk his way back to $7, I'm okay with that. So like everybody kind of wins. You start off ridiculous, and the other guy starts off by saying no, and then you work your way back. If it's a work, I hope it is, because I cannot say this strongly enough. If you let this guy leave, that's going to be the beginning of the end for AEW, because it would be and also it shows that Tony is unfit to run a wrestling company, because you do not let this guy leave. Yes, maybe he's being, if this is real, maybe he's being a little immature because he's 24, but if this is one of your homegrown fucking talents, you can't keep loading up with WWF talent. Like, letting this guy go would be a really telling mistake and really show that you do not know what you're doing. If it's a work, I
don't think he's going any fucking where.
Now, if it's a work, I'm going to say this right now, and this is actually true. It had the opposite effect, because, again, much like the last pay-per-view that I dropped money on, what made me buy $50 pay-per-view in this day and age was Eddie Kingston, and it was MJF with that dog collar match. And even though they fucked up the ending, MJF is the reason. 25 for MJF, 25 for Eddie Kingston. And I was going to get the pay-per-view to see the payoff of it. And I thought he was supposed to wrestle Spears or something first, but then all this hoopla started, and then I heard that basically he came out and got squashed, and I was like, that's your big payoff? I was like, I'm glad I didn't.
I was going to ask you, do you think the squash was punishment for him?
I don't, honestly. Here's the thing: MJF is always in character, so I'm going to admit that I'm not 100% sure if it's a work or if it's real. But if it's a work, they're working it the wrong way, because I was thinking, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait till like late in the morning, like, 2, 3 in the morning. I'll order it. I'll get up really early and I'll watch the pay-per-view. And I'll kind of get a glimmer of what's going, because I knew Wardlow was going to win, but I thought maybe I missed something because I was working all week and I was out of town. But I thought he was supposed to also wrestle Shawn Spears, had to beat him, then wrestle MJF. And I thought they were going to do this whole big drawn-out thing, which is what I want to see with MJF losing, which, had to be the end of that storyline. And he came out and 7 minutes, and I'm not going to lie, if I would have paid, I literally would have called and been like, I want my money back. This is bullshit. I don't even want to watch the rest of the thing. And you put it on first. I don't know if this is a work, Tony. This is the worst fucking work, because a major reason why I did not buy this pay-per-view was this unfolding scenario that happened, and the fact that you put it on first and it lasted 7 minutes, I hated it. I rather the match not happen and you just act like he's a coward and ran and suspend him, quote unquote. So that way you can still probably negotiate with the guy and then play down storyline where they put him in a cage with Wardlow and he has nowhere to run, and or something in his contract that he can't wrestle anywhere else ever for the next 3 years unless he has this match. You could have done it that way. The crowd would have been pissed, but you could have made it up to him. If it's a work, it's a terrible work, and you need to stop. If it's not, you need to fucking put your boo-boo feelings away and pay this kid, because considering some of the good shit he's done and some of the bullshit he had to endure with some of your bad comedy with like Jericho and all the other shit, he's earned a significant pay raise, and you could give him a certain amount of money to keep him happy until you get towards the end of his contract where, you know, you make the big offer. But if they let him go, it's going to be very telling. And because, you know, they've allowed Hobbs and Starks are not pushing hard enough. Darby and Guevara have kind of cooled off. Britt's the only one they haven't really fucked up yet. Cargill, I'm sorry, I give a fuck why. So you need as many. I don't give a. There's only so many Danielsons and Punks. You need your own talent to build this company. The Bucks came from something else, and they're on their end of their years. Omega, again, he's on the end of his years, and you know, like, again, it's like it's starting to look like TNA with some of the guys they're bringing in, and given the weird hodgepodgey booking where it's like, okay, he comes in, big entrance, and then gone for months. It's like, wow. So, yeah, it's letting him go would be very, very telling. And if I was an executive with TNT or whatever the company is, I would call Tony in my office and I go, look, man, I am, even though you're cheap for a TV show to produce, I'm starting to see some worries. I'm starting to see some stuff on Twitter and Instagram and the internet and everything that I'm not liking. Do I need to be worried, or do I need to maybe fire? I'm being serious, because this dude, I'm not saying give him whatever the fuck he wants, but you know, there's something that you can give this guy that
because I think, like I said, we're gonna pay attention to see what happens. Because I'm curious, because I'm pretty sure the way that they're going to do it, he's going to be off TV for a minute. Because I do, that Tony do try to keep it to detail to a certain extent, as much as he can. Because, yeah, it'll be crazy if he shows up like Wednesday or Friday. Like, really, y'all went through all that just for his ass?
No, he can't. No, see, here's the deal. If he shows up, he has to now stay off. Now you're married. Now, again, if this is a storyline, now you're stuck in it, because I'm pissed off about how that whole match happened. Yeah. I'm pissed off about the ending of that storyline, and I didn't pay to be there, and I didn't pay to watch it, and I'm pissed. I'm not happy. So if I'm not happy, what about the people that spent the $50? What about the people that actually went to Vegas or like left their house, that live in Vegas and paid for parking and food and dealt with a screaming kid and da-da-da-da in a pandemic? I'm not happy. He has to stay off TV at least a month, because if he does show up, people are not going to be happy in all the wrong ways. And here's the other thing too. In my opinion, as far as fantasy booking, I was thinking Punk would have some initial feud with somebody. I don't know who. Everybody wants Brian, but I would maybe make them wait a little bit longer, because he's doing that thing with the Blackpool Club. I always thought the money feud for Punk as champion, besides Danielson, was going to be MJF, and it would be a blood feud. And then carry, honestly, to the end of the year, and then where MJF finally gets the belt, and then all of a sudden, guess who pops back up? He becomes the chicken heel champion. And basically Wardlow haunts his however long of a reign you want to give him, until eventually he loses it to Wardlow, and you can continue with that feud, because of course MJF is going to use all his money and all his legal tactics and all these loopholes to keep himself in the title picture. But I'm sorry, if this is a work, this is a very bad work. It reminds me of, I'm a Chiefs fan, and the Chiefs are an exciting
Do you
football
think people
team.
trying to make it a work?
I think people want it to be a work because I don't think they want to really think about the fact that MJF might go to the WWE, or just sit at home for months without being on TV. But because that's the thing, he's so in character and he's so good at what he does, it's really hard to tell. And Tony, it's like Tony reminds me of that old funny commercial from Ren and Stimpy. You know, wood, it's big, it's round, it's heavy. Wood, it's dumb, it's wood. It's like a log. You know, it's log. And I got to be honest. If this is a work, it's terrible because you're making people uncomfortable in the wrong way, and now you've backed yourself into a booking corner where you have to let them be uncomfortable for a while. Otherwise, you're going to enrage. You can make people uncomfortable. Happy.
Here's the question: because Wardlow does have a winning record, do you feed Wardlow to Punk because of the fact?
Absolutely fucking not. If you want to put a gold belt right now, he doesn't need a belt. But if you want to put a belt on him,
no, not for him to win the belt.
No. Okay. God, no.
I just wanted to ask that. The same way they should stay away from each other. Wardlow should never challenge for the belt unless he's going to win. Go ahead.
Let me tell you something. If I was the booker, well, first of all, right now, he is the epitome of somebody who does not need a belt. He needs a viable opponent. He does not need a belt. If you're going to give him a belt, you give him the TNT belt, and you keep him out of those bullshit multi-person matches, and you give him proper opponents. To be honest with you, no, he should not lose anything. If I was the booker, I'm not joking when I say this.
He should not lose another match.
I would pull his big ass aside and I go, listen to me. You're not losing for like the next 7 months. I don't even want you fucking on your back. She doesn't get to be on top. If your girlfriend likes to be on top, get a new girlfriend. You don't fuck on top. Fuck her standing up. Hell, you could fuck her on top of me and my wife, but you're not fucking. Don't even fuck on your back. You know what? Sleep on your stomach from now on, just to be safe. From now on, nothing on your back. Nothing. Yeah. Don't even wash your back. Like, I'm not joking. Like, this dude is so much money. And here's the best part. He's got that Goldberg mystique about him now, but he can actually wrestle. And he's actually competent. And he's fucking safe. And
he got a look. He has a look.
Yeah, no,
he's like money.
He's Goldberg if he were good. And you protect him. And no, I would keep him away from Punk. If you want to put a belt on him, I'd have him steam through whoever, Sky. Like, okay, have him steam through and just make him, if you're going to make him seem vulnerable, make it a reason why he's vulnerable, and like he's been jumped by, like, again, when they were whipping him, they had to kick him in the balls because anybody who's ever been in the fight, I don't care how many black belts you have. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how many years you served in combat in the military. A thumb to the eyes, a direct hit to the nose, a kick in the balls, a liver shot. These things will bring a person down, at least for a few seconds. Yeah. And that they did perfectly. God, no, you don't even know. You know what? We shouldn't even speak of it. It shouldn't even be. They should do the old Jewish rule that I knew with Jewish kids, where they would talk about, did you hear about Morty? I heard he has the cancer. And, he has to go to the hospital to check it out, because he has a long line of cancer in his family. In Irish culture, growing up the way I did, we didn't even, like, address horrible things. Like, we would just look at each other like, did you hear about Aunt Mary? And we just stare at each other because, or even when things are going well, you're hesitant to say something because it's like you're going to bring bad luck upon it. So, like, don't even talk about it. Or if you're gonna mention it, go, yeah, I think maybe next month we might have Wardlow lose. Like, just keep it. Yeah, no, protect this motherfucker and keep him happy. And here's the other thing. Guess what? If other wrestlers in this company are making more money than him, that's a travesty. That needs to change. Some of these guys.
Oh, he got a lot of renegotiating to do with some of these wrestlers, dog.
Well, and that's always a thing. Now you have stars, and no matter how much you pay these guys, no matter how much you give a raise to MJF, no matter how much of a raise you give to, and here's the other thing, with Darby and Sammy, Hobbs, Starks, Hook, These are guys. Even Statlander is starting to. I'm starting to see something there now that she's not doing that ridiculous gimmick. These are people that you need to go to, even though they have a couple of years left on the contract, and go, look, here's the deal. And if you go to them, you kind of beat the clock. You go, hey, I'm going to give you a 30% bump. I'm going to give you a little bit of a. I'm going to give you a bonus, whatever. Keep them happy until you really have to go into negotiation, because again, you can't have a wrestling company where it's all guys WWE fired or weren't using right.
Now
eventually it's going to ruin your company.
Because I want to move on from wardrobe. Should we care that Amber Moon is now in the women's division? And I'm gonna answer first. Glad that Athena is in AEW, because I think Athena is going to help Jane Cargill become better. And in my opinion, why they act like she should have squashed Anna Jay. That should have been a squash match. And to me, me personally, when I sat here and thought about it, she should not have no competitive matches until she go against somebody that is actually competitive. Because one, her size and her athleticism and how big and strong she is. I'm liking everything they're doing with her, except for her matches, because her matches are not barn burners.
Well, that's the thing. There could be no squash matches. Everybody has to. It has to be a competitive match.
Because
everybody has to get their stuff in.
I don't give a damn how good Anna Jay is. That she's supposed to be able to handle this chick. That's like her. That's like you saying, motherfucking Alexa Bliss can beat up Bianca Belair. No, not in real life.
Okay, again, I probably, because I just got done filming and I'm probably going to film again this week, so it's fresh on my brain. So the comparisons are a little heavy this week. If I shoot for Brazzers, or I shoot for Naughty America or something, and they're doing an actual movie and I get to cast, they're going to have a woman. They're going to have like an Angela White or a Bella Danger or somebody like, this is our big star of the movie. This is who you're basically buying the movie for. Am I, the new guy on the roster, going to fuck the star of the movie? No, I'm going to be in one of the opening scenes, fucking one of the newer girls. And then like the top male talent is going to work with, we'll say Angela White. I have to put in, maybe next year, if I'm lucky, 2 years from now, you'll see me with my dick out on her tits on a box cover with, me going, hey, on the cover with Angela White. But, it wouldn't make sense. Like, yeah, what's your name, Billy? Pilgrim? Yeah, okay. How long you been working for Naughty America? 5 minutes? All right, cool. Angela, one of the biggest money-making, award-winning current stars in porn history is upstairs. Get up there. We're gonna throw you. Like, no. So you have people that that are okay. They're a bit on our TV. They're established. People know they're not just some job guy, but they don't have a 15-minute match. You have an 8-minute match. Like, again, when they had Dante Martin wrestle Adam Page, it shouldn't have been for the title, and Adam Page should have pinned him in 5 minutes. And you do something like he got a couple of seconds of the upper hand. He went for a high-risk maneuver, and the champ moved out of the way, and he took a bad fall. And then the champ saw the opportunity, hit him with that clothesline, and then 1, 2, 3. Hey, you know what? The kid had him for a second.
The old school way is that the champ don't take him seriously, and he gets a little bit of offense at first, and then the champ shuts it down and end the match.
Yeah, and again, or the person has a lot of fights. Because here's the other thing, there's times when you're going to lose a fight, but you go down swinging, and believe it or not, at least I don't know how. I know how young kids do it, but if you are getting into a fight with somebody and they whoop your ass, but they had to earn that the right to say they whooped your ass, usually you would gain some kind of respect. Actually, that's kind of how in our day, that's kind of how you made friends. You would get into a fight with a kid on the playground or after school, and you would whip each other's asses, and then weirdly, like a bond of respect would come through, and then like, how'd you guys meet? Oh, well, he punched me in the face and I kicked him in the balls, and then we rolled around on the ground for 20 minutes having each other in a headlock. We've been friends ever since. It's, it's this weird thing that you got to protect everybody's feelings. And this is where in adult life, sometimes I've been, look, like I said, the people, Team PP Media, I have a lot of confidence. And I take a lot of pride in what I do. I am a legitimate, established male talent. Am I the best? Am I the biggest? No. And I'll tell you right now, I do scenes where I kill it. And even when I kill it in a scene, I got 1 or 3 producers pulling me aside and schooling me, sometimes yelling at me, going, don't do this. Why are you doing that? Why'd you let her do this? What the fuck are you doing? Yada, yada, yada. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to one day be in the main event. It doesn't mean, that they don't see something in me. It's like, look, you're on your way up and you need to be groomed and to learn. Dante Martin shouldn't have went out there as a number 2 contender for the title and have a long match. He should have went out there, and had a match with Paige, put up a little bit of fight. Like you said, he wasn't taking it seriously in a good-natured way. He got the upper hand for a second, made a mistake, lost. Jane Cargill, yeah, she should be plowing through people because he does not have the skill set to have, and you haven't put her in there with anybody that can keep Bret Hart her and give her a good match and make her look good. There's something to be said for losing in a certain way without Arn Anderson never won. Arn Anderson took the pin in everything. If it involved, he took the pin in an Arn Anderson match. He took the pin in any other match. Doesn't matter who else was in the match. Arn Anderson, if he was on the losing side, he ate the pin, and everybody immediately got back in line the same day to buy a ticket to see Arn Anderson. So, there's a way of losing without losing your momentum or your status. And it's just, I'm sorry. Look, you're not our top star yet. You're about 5 years away from that. So you're going to go out there and you're going to lose in under 6 minutes. You're not going to get all your shit in. As a matter of fact, you're not going to do any of the really cool shit that you do on the indie circuit. You're going to basically put up a good fight and then you're going to lose. And I know I'm being repetitive, but I would look the person in the eye and go, this is your task tonight. If you're not going to do it, just tell me. I will respect your decision. And then I will send somebody else out there and I will send you home and you will not be here anymore because I have no use for you.
So, and of course, me about Dante, he's next in line to challenge the wonderful, what's his damn name? For the TNT title with Scorpio.
Are you fucking with me?
Yep, he's next in line for that. So they're gonna feed him to Scorpio Sky.
Fuck. And, seriously, I didn't realize, who's he beating himself? I didn't realize jerking off, somehow gave you contendership because I'm not going to lie. I'm already way overdue for 12 title shots at this point because I don't know. Again, I like the kid, but there's no way in your right mind you would put a belt on this kid right now. He's got athletic ability.
He's not getting the belt. We ain't got to worry about that.
But that's the thing. They're going to give him a 2 competitive match. Why is he even a contender? The kid, again, there's potential there, but again, it's I don't know. If you're going to make him lose in a realistic fashion in a way that people can get behind him. It's just absurd. It's dumb. And guess what? I don't want to watch that match now because why the fuck is he number 2? What did he do when you got Kazarian, you got Ethan Page, you got all these other people around? How the fuck is he the number 2 contender again? And why is he how are you able to do nothing and be number 2, but yet somehow you somehow can't muster number 1? What? It makes no sense, and it stands out. And I'm sorry, Dante, you're given a chance and a role to play, and you can't fill it. You're not holding up your end of the bargain, and it's not your fault. But you're making it worse by going out and having that match. It's it makes me care less about Dante. Makes the belt not seem serious. It's dumb. You want to use this kid, then start doing shit to build this kid up. Number 1, singles. Number 1, no more tag teams. Apparently his brother, whoever else you tag him with, can't stay healthy. So no more tag team. I'm being serious. No more tag team. You're going to be a single. But again, build him up. start at the first card of the match of the card and build him up, and and put him in there with experienced people. Send him on the off days. Send him out there to do a tour of Japan or go on the indie circuit and wrestle with some guys. Here's a little thing. Sabu, when he started the match, never just went immediately to the air. He would do some grappling. He would do some, mat work and wrestle the guy, because Sabu actually was an amateur wrestler. So he would start off on the ground, taking his opponent to the ground and doing the switcheroo and ride in the back and, and everything, and would do some grappling. Then eventually would graduate to the high flying, and then go to the, I'm going to jump through a Honda Civic onto your head. So just immediately, it's impressive how he's able to hang in the air like that, but that's all he does. And he has a look on his face like he has to take a shit.
Sure. Well, I think we pretty much got through AEW for the most part. So for that pay-per-view, because really ain't too much more I really want to talk about from that. So I guess we can, for the last part of Pro Wrestling Smoke, before we go into old school, Sasha and Naomi, what can we expect to happen moving forward? Because they have trashed them in every which way. And they're not releasing them. They're not releasing them. So we know that. And the question is, with this going down, and what is going to happen moving forward with them? Are we even going to see them again until the end of their contract?
I don't think the WWE wants the bad publicity. Depending on how long is left on their contract, but I would imagine would be long. It's gonna grow, and it's gonna make the WWE, even though on TV they get spin the narrative that Sasha and Naomi are terrible people. They kick puppies. They don't celebrate Christmas. They don't look both ways before crossing the street. They're terrible, terrible people because, they didn't like the god-awful, quote-unquote, creative that WWE gave them. But the public clearly is firmly behind Bianca and Sasha, and I would say that it's not going to end well if the WWE really drags this out. It's kind of like the Punk thing. And I think worst case, if they really decide to drag it out, it could drag on until the beginning of next year. But either they're going to make all kinds of promises like a deadbeat dad does to their kid. I'm going to pick you up on Saturday. We're going to go to the carnival and we're going to do all this stuff and yada, yada, yada. We're going to go to Toys R Us and have a grand old day. And they're going to make whatever promises. And if they say yes, then they'll hold that promise for about, 3 months, 6 if you're lucky. And then it'll be back to the same thing because, again, Sasha was already here. And ironically, the last time she was in this position, she was the tag champ. And if I were Naomi and Sasha, I would just say, look, we made our money. We built our name. Just let us go. And they have options outside of wrestling. They have options in wrestling. Let them go. Save some kind of face in public image. Let them go. And probably, much like Cody, in a couple of years, they'll come back and probably bigger stars. But it's a no-win situation for the WWE, the way they're going about it. But it's a win-win for Sasha and Naomi because the more WWE piles on them, the more sympathetic, tragic figures they become. And then when they're finally free, depending on the time and the level of shit piled on them, holy shit, they're coming out party in another company. I made my feelings known about how they had the independent contract of bullshit. These women have enough money, and I'm sure they could probably elicit some support from like attorneys and whatnot. Like in a real court case, those contracts will not stand up because you can't tell somebody they can't go somewhere or do something, even tie your own shoe without their permission, but they can fire you or not pay you or do anything for you because you don't work for me, but you work for me. So I would love to see that independent contractor shit go out the window. But I think they're in a win-win as far as they'll get more money or at least a couple of months of a reprieve and ride out the rest of their contracts, or they'll get released and be free of that bullshit because you have 2 stars there that, I mean, God almighty. I mean, just fucking hell. Like, in one division, if they go to Impact or AEW or Ring of Honor, I mean, my God, there's your division right there. And it doesn't take much to book them. Just book them strong and just listen to the crowd. Sasha is a great heel. Sasha's better as a heel in the ring. She actually is one of the few rare cases where outside the ring, she can walk around, smile like, "Oh my God, Kevin, oh Billy, give me a hug, tell me about your, whatever, da 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 da." And then in the ring, she walks by, it's like, "Trifling ass cracker motherfucker, who the fuck, I don't give a fuck about you, fuck you, and fuck your mama," and did everything, go in the ring and make everybody mad and hate her and give a great match. And then after the card, like, "Billy, I love you. Oh my God, how's your mom?" And that's amazing talent. Let her be a heel. Let Naomi just go out there and, just fucking goddamn. Naomi is just too beautiful and just has too much of a big heart to be a convincing heel. So, yeah, ironically, you have a born baby face. You got your Ricky Steamboat. You got your Ric Flair. Let him go. But, yeah, WWE is really wrong. They really lost their way. And the independent contractor bullshit, it's just complete bullshit. And I would love to see them be taken to court and really. I think Punk could have done it, but I think Punk was at a certain point of burnt out that he just wanted to be away from the WWE. Like he wasn't planning on wrestling. Clearly, that we know now. That's part of the reason why WWE wouldn't they dragged it out. They didn't want him immediately going to Impact, but it was like, I just don't want you in my life. I just don't I want to go work for Marvel. I want to do a movie. I want to train in MMA, and I want you to get none of that money. I just want you gone. And he had, I mean, I don't know, I don't know his finances, but legal shit is expensive. If somebody's willing to take it to court and fight that battle, the WWE will lose. Because on the face of it, there's how can you sit there and tell me I can't do what I want? I got, even if I do something like Twitch or YouTube, and I got to give you part of my money, even though you don't contribute. But I can't go and do what I want. But you could tell me every little thing, and you could fire me whenever you want, and I can't quit when I want. Like, how the fuck does that work? It's you know what I mean? It's like just walking up to your accountant in the office and you start fucking her, and it's like, wait, what? Like, oh yeah, you're a porn star now. For the next 20 minutes, you're a porn star. I'm just kidding. Like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you are. Yeah, tell me, yeah, you're my wife and you're mad that I haven't been home in 2 days. Like, no, I'm not. Yeah, you are. Like, just put your leg up on the table. Like, here we go. Whatever. And then as soon as you done making the scene, it'd be like, yeah, by the way, you get no rights to the scene and you're not going to make any of the money out of the thing because, you're not a porn star. It's like, it makes no sense. Like, that was all nonsensical. That's what the WWE contracts are. But there's still that weird allure of the WWE and being a star, and then people, all they think is they just think about the money they could make, and maybe they'll become the next TV star, they'll get a video game, t-shirt sales, and it's like, and then they're in too deep before they realize, like, shit, I'm Heath Slater, and it's, so again, if they ever happen to listen to this, or if somebody tweets it at them, you guys stand your ground. It's easy for me to say, but I would not take any offer they offer you. I would demand the release or take them to court, because you guys are so much money. It's fucking ridiculous. They can hold up a company on their own, and 2 black women can go to any company and hold up an entire division and raise the level of an entire company on their shoulders just by showing up.
That's why they're the best heel, that contract.
And be the best heel and be the best baby face. Like, when in history could that ever have been possible? Like, black women come in, your women's division is shit. Now it's actually something. The company was down here. Now it's up a couple of notches. I got the best heel. I got the best baby face. Put him in a feud. There's your modern day. That's what everybody's been hunting. There's your modern day Ric Flair. There's your modern day Ric Flair Steamboat feud. Boom, right there. You know, I mean, and it's happened to be two black women. I think they should stand their ground.
So we are now done with the Pro Wrestling Smoke side of this show. So you know what time it is. It is time for Old to the Old School. So as you know, last week we did part one, introduction to the book as the autobiography of the original Sheik. So I'm going to step back and let the aficionado, historian, and great porn star, and our host, Billy Pilgrim, to narrate this part of the show. And go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, so last time we did a show, we had a guest, and it was a very long show, and it was, and you know, and even though Gerald's a great guest, Kavanaugh and I have a certain rhythm that literally was natural from day one, which you know, from one interview led to this, and it was a long show, and honestly, it. You know, there's only so much WWE talk in a show I can handle before I start getting cranky. So I was a little off. So we're going to kind of just, because this book, written by Brian R. Solomon, I cannot recommend it enough. If Brian ever happens to hear this, you sir, have written your version of the Great American, you know, book or novel. You did an amazing job. This book is very well written. It is dense with information, but it flows. And I would honestly say, while you're listening to me, hit pause and go buy the book. As a matter of fact, actually, what date is it today? Tomorrow, the audiobook read by Brian R. Solomon actually hits Audible, and you know, get it on Audible. I might even buy the audiobook, even though I've read the book. But the book in and of itself, it's going to be a classic, and I think it's going to be one of the few wrestling books that actually goes into multiple reprints because it is really, really good. I can't think of, if we didn't have such a long show, I'd probably have a lot of fancy words to describe it. But basically, he managed to do research and dig on one of the legends of wrestling, a man that truly was shrouded in mystery, even in the era of the internet, in the death of kayfabe. This guy had an allure of mystery about him up until recently, and just, like I said, there was so much about this guy, and he was there for so many pivotal moments in history that. Even listening to Jim Cornette podcast, listening to Stick to Wrestling, you know, everything, you know, you didn't know any of these facts, and we're going to go over some of them. The book is so dense that I don't want to give away too much, but at the same time, there's so much to cover.
Now before you to the book, explain to people how significant and how powerful the Sheik was when it came to professional wrestling within the NWA, the Detroit, and the whole nine. Because when people talk about the Sheik, it's like like the fans of the day don't understand how big of a character he was back then, and even up until you know his later years.
He was a huge star pretty much from the time he started wrestling, which was in 1946 at the age of 20. He was a star, and basically after the first few years of, you know, kind of, you know, working the road and working some territories, he started out as the Sheik of Araby, and the gimmick, and ironically, the Sheik that people know most of, the quiet Sheik with the pencil, the fork, and running around being a madman with the boots and everything, that was a slow progression that took about 20 years, and it was slowly added on to, and you know, and it slowly, like, like the character seems so simple, but it had layers and it slowly evolved with time. But to your point, he was also, not only was he the mainstay of a territory and a heel, which, normally a mainstay, with the exception of Jerry Lawler, was, with the exception of Jerry Lawler, was usually a good guy. The Sheik was a top guy and the main draw in the Detroit territory for jumping Jesus, like I want to say 30 years, and always a villain. And and the thing is, he was also the promoter. He was a very successful businessman and promoter, to the extent that he even revived. Toronto was kind of a territory on the outs and came in and became one of its biggest stars, being a heel, but also helped promote the territory with Jack Tunney, kayfabe president of the WWE, Jack Tunney, and was a huge draw there for years. It had like an impressive 127 match winning streak that eventually was his downfall. But no, the Sheik was vastly important, and again, he was kind of the Forrest Gump of pro wrestling. And originally, he started off with a turban, and then eventually evolved into, and I apologize, I don't know the proper term, but the more chic Arab like headdress. Eventually, started wearing the boots with a curve to him. His wife at the time was his slave girl, and his mouthpiece.
I never understood it. Now, maybe you might know. Why did all the Arab, the Sheiks and the Arabs, from Iron Sheik to the original Sheik, of course, the original Sheik was the first one. Why did they go with those type boots?
Because of, I believe it's a style of boot actually in like in Arabic countries and or Middle East and that part of the country. Like, it is a style of shoe, and I'm not sure of the significance of it. Again, folks, Kavanaugh gives me entirely too much credit. I'm going to make a note of that to like maybe keep an eye out for little facts like that.
Yeah, because I never heard Jim Cornette talk about, or any wrestlers actually talk about why.
Well, I know I've seen it in pictures, and I know it's like common in that country from in the past. I will actually look up that factoid, and we'll talk about it on the show. I'm actually going to scribble it down on a post-it note right now. But then he eventually, the wife, they started having kids. So the wife decided to kind of leave the road, and he started using a manager who was a DJ in Detroit. And, he had a very Muslim sounding name, which actually it's so thick and heavy. I actually, I marked down a bunch of stuff, but the significance of it is that he eventually went on to become the Grand Wizard in the WWE. So he was like something Muhammad Allah Farouk with Detroit, and he was with the Sheik for years. And then, much like Jimmy Hart, he was doing such a good job being the mouthpiece. His name was Eli Roth, ironically a Jewish man playing an Arab. That Vince Sr. offered him a job. And one of the things we're going to talk about later in the profile was the Sheik Ed Farhad. While in this book, again, Brian R. Solomon does a brilliant job of weaving here's a guy who, understood business and didn't hold like grudges, or knew when was, didn't hold people back for certain opportunities. But at the same time, somehow was just very unpopular with a lot of promoters and a lot of wrestlers. But yet at the same time, never being apparently reported to be a bad guy overall. Mm-hmm. But Ernie came to him a little nervous because, this was a huge opportunity to go to New York. Mm-hmm. And Ed Farhad said, man, you go for it. You got to do it. And he went, changed his name, and became the famous Grand Wizard, one of the biggest managers, along with Freddie Blassie in the
I remember the
70s.
Grand Wizard. That show you my age. I remember that motherfucker with them ugly ass shades.
Yeah. And
Your future
again, this is the beginning of showing you the effect on history, because had it not been for the Sheik kind of, making him his manager, there would have been no Grand Wizard. In 1946 was a very important year in the Sheik's career, because after touring all over the country and in Canada, wrestling the likes of every major star of that era, including Bruno Sammartino, including, Bobo Brazil, like he just wrestled every big name of that era, Ferngana, Lou Thez. Oh, actually, one of the most famous matches he ever had that really started to skyrocket his profile was Lou Thez was a legitimate badass shooter. It's literally all he knew how to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he, at the time, didn't really get what the fuck was, the Sheik was something really original at the time as far as a gimmick, because he did have an amateur background, but basically he was just a wild man that did all this stuff and what have you. And Lou Thez really was not a humorous man. He didn't really have much time for nonsense of any kind. And back then, if you were the NWA champion, you had to know how to shoot, so you could fend off people possibly pulling a double cross. And Lou Thez was a badass up until his dying day. And there was a famous thing where he kind of, and the Sheik was becoming a big name, and basically Lou Thez said, "Look, I'm not going to put up with that horse shit," and basically, let it be known, like, I don't know, if the mood strikes me, I might fuck you up. So the Sheik went out there, did a whole big thing, and then fled the ring and dug through the snow and crawled under a bus and stayed there, causing a whole big scene. It was in the papers and everything, and it drew huge attention and brought huge crowds to Detroit wrestling, so much so that eventually, as the years went on, Lou Thez grew to respect, the Sheik, and as far as his showmanship and how he did things, and realized he does take wrestling seriously. It's just, this is his gimmick. But that was a huge thing, basically running from Lou Thez in genuine fear and crawling under a bus in the snow in Detroit and hiding under the bus. And that was a very famous story. But in 1946 was one of the biggest years in his career, because he went back to the Amarillo territory, and he had a lot of history in the Amarillo territory because he had been there several times throughout his career. And when Dory Funk Sr. was running Amarillo, it developed a bond that would last the rest of his life and wrestling career with the Funk Boys and Dory. And when he returned for another run in Amarillo, that's when the Sheik became a main eventer. And while he was becoming a main eventer and drawing huge crowds in the Amarillo territory and really showing that I'm not just an attraction or a mid-card guy, something was happening back in Detroit. And this is when I talked about how this is why I love doing research, and I'm still finding my legs. But I had several books that I actually had to put this one down and then go dig into my library, because I had other books where a little bit more of the story was played out. Jim Barnett, who was an openly gay, famous, very powerful promoter in wrestling. He was known for basically creating studio wrestling. One of the things that Detroit was on a groundbreaking was Jim Barnett bought his way in. It took over that whole Midwest, like Detroit area, and essentially came up with the idea of studio wrestling, which cut costs down to nothing and basically created the model that you and I are so nostalgic for, and that the NWA currently does, which is studio wrestling. And the Sheik was there and one of the wrestlers for that. And he was one of Barnett's, top stars, and they had worked together for years. But Barnett liked to live lavishly. And Barnett, while not walking in the room and yelling, "I'm gay," never hid it. And he had a love for the boys. And I'm not talking about the wrestlers. And he was living in Louisville, Kentucky, and with his partner, and they had befriended the Kentucky football team. And you can actually read some of the story in the book, The Thin 30, which is about the Kentucky football team in this time period, in the 46 to like the 50s. And well, apparently they would have lavish parties with members of the football team. And, these guys, the coach and the conditions for the players were very hard. And, they would basically swoon with booze and food and parties, to the extent that a very young and attractive Rock Hudson would come to these parties.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was involved in the scandal. And there were, shall we say, certain events that took place. And eventually, the scandal and the parties outdrew Barnett's political connections. And Barnett had to get out of town. And I mean, quick. I mean, as in, you're here Tuesday, leave tomorrow. And they had to basically sell his territory. So he sold his territory to the Sheik, who had come back from a main event run in Amarillo. And that's how, and he bought the territory for $10,000. And that is how the Sheik came to own big time wrestling in Detroit. Barnett had not only had to leave Kentucky and leave the general area of the Midwest, he went to Australia and he set up shop there for about 8 to 10 years, where he started, and wait for it, championship wrestling. And he ran and promoted one of the most successful wrestling promotions ever in wrestling history. And he, did gangbusters in Australia from, I want to say, roughly. I'm sorry, I fucked up my times. It was 66 that this all happened. I apologize. I fucked up my time period. I apologize. So basically he stayed in Australia until he was called back to settle the Georgia promotional war. But basically, the Sheik had a hand in, taking over the Detroit territory, and, Jim Barnett going to Australia and starting World Championship Wrestling and all that. And he essentially, it became like what they call a kick punch territory. And they were doing booming business because he had characters and he had larger than life, wrestlers, and it was a lot of action and, again, blood and guts. And so much so that he was doing such gangbuster business. He also, like I said, helped take over the Maple Leaf, the Maple. I'm sorry, again, tongue tied. Toronto territory, where he was a huge draw there, while being a huge draw in Detroit, and traveling the country for spots where he would come in for like a main event attraction. And that also began one of the longest money drawing feuds ever with Bobo Brazil.
So now, also one thing they talked about was the Sheik never really lost, and it kind of hurt the business in Detroit after a while.
Especially in Toronto. And actually, Andre the Giant was involved in that because the Sheik had such. And actually, hold on a second. Let me grab the book, and I'm going to rattle off some of the names in this 127, because it's a veritable who's who. And like, hold on one second, because John really did his research in this book, and there's like.
Because while you doing that, I'm gonna ask you this, just your thoughts. Do you think the reason why he never took a loss because he was afraid that if he lose, it would hurt the business in Detroit? Not necessarily his standing as the top heel, because he was technically supposed to lose at some point.
I mean, he did the occasional job. Like he did lose I believe it was in 1967-68 during the upheaval with racial tensions in Detroit. He lost clean to Bobo Brazil and put his version of the U.S. title on him. He did the job occasionally. I think it was more about the mystique of the Sheik in and of itself. And again, he never. A lot of times when he won, it was usually by some kind of disqualification or some kind of melee. And if he did lose, that was the thing. When he did lose, it was by like never pinfall. Okay, so the Sheik's 127 undefeated streak that lasted the Maple Leaf Gardens from 1969 to 1974. Just some of the talents that he beat. Bulldog Brower, the Mighty Igor, Whipper Billy Watson, former NWA champion, Gene Kaninsky, Bruno Sammartino, Dominic Danucci, Lou Thez, Eduardo Carpentier, Bobo Brazil, Andre the Giant, hold on, still going, Flying Fred Curry, Wild Bull Curry, Tiger Jeet Singh, Haystacks Calhoun, Angelo Mosca, the Mass Assassin. Let's see. Big names. Pampiro Firpo. The Magnificent Zulu. Sweet Daddy Siki, another huge star.
Yeah,
Johnny Valentine. And we're going. Ernie Ladd. Chief J Strongbow. Bill Red Lions. So basically it was a veritable who's who. And usually if he won by DQ, and if he did lose, it was by DQ. It was when he faced Andre the Giant and he did the stereotypical, he threw fireball in Andre's face, the ref didn't see it, and then, it like a count out or whatever. That's when the worm turned. Had he done the 1, 2, 3 for the Giant, again, he's a giant. It would have been feasible that the Sheik finally got his comeuppance, and then Ed Farhad was not a dumb man. He would have been able to make a comeback and rebuild that. That's why the undefeated streak, man. The more it goes on, it's a very small window where it's like, ooh, the hype, and then it becomes an albatross. But he had legendary feuds with Johnny Valentine, Bobo Brazil, Bruno Sammartino, Andre the Giant, the Mighty Igor. Bobo Brazil feud is his most famous and probably one of the longest running, that basically went across
and bloody, yeah.
And he was all over.
Now I'm gonna ask you this. Speaking about bloody, did he do that to set himself? Because a lot of his matches was bloody. They bled. Did he do that because he wanted his territory to be different from everyone else, or that was supposed to be a part of the Sheik's character that he had bloodlust?
It was part of his character. It became bloodlust, and he actually learned it from. Oh, damn! I'm going to take a risk here, and please feel free to correct me. But we talked about him when we talked about Jim Mitchell. Oh God, I'm going to say Danny Shane, the wrestler that basically is credited with creating the blade and essentially inventing.
We need to do a pro wrestling smoke on blading one day, where it came from and how it became a part of wrestling. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I had to go back to the Jim Mitchell book, but I unfortunately I left some of the books in the other room. But he basically, he's credited with, in several books and on the internet, with creating the blade and the blade job, and he is believed to have taught the Sheik, and the Sheik, it was just part, and he just kind of cut himself willy-nilly. He didn't go with the thing of cutting along with the creases or cutting on the top of your hairline, but everything was all about he never spoke. He had managers, the bloodlust, the pencil, the just wild crazy. And as he got older and his body started to break down, the antics and the craziness got a little bit more. But it was all about the allure of the Sheik. And while this is happening, as he took over the territory in 1966, it was doing huge business. Plus, in the Maple Leaf Gardens, he's like a ridiculous draw. And at the same time, as he's doing this, he's going to Florida, New York, LA. He's going everywhere in the country, coming in as a huge attraction, drawing money, and then flying back like next night and wrestling his own territory. Originally, he started out as a Sheik of Araby, and it was Vince McMahon Sr.'s idea to narrow it down to just call yourself the Sheik. Mm-hmm. And again, he had a long running thing with with Bruno Sammartino. Bruno Sammartino apparently did not care for him on a personal level. I think it's also like Ed Farhat was not known for his great payoffs for most wrestlers, despite his high living style and his money. And then in, I believe, 1971, he did what a lot of people thought would not be possible. He went back and forth to Gene LaBelle's brother, LA Territory, the WWA that we have talked about on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go in as an attraction, and he got into a feud with the long-standing mainstay and other great villain of the time, Freddie Blassie. And Freddie Blassie, at this point, he's in his 50s and winding down his career. And he and the Sheik had a series of bloody cage matches and run-ins that just lit the territory on fire and made Freddie Blassie one of the most devious heels of like the last 30 years, a babyface. And that set up the feud between him and John Tolis that went on for, I want to say, about a year and a half. And that was the last great money drawing feud in LA. And Tolis being a heel as well, had not the Sheik come in and had those series of cage matches with Freddie Blassie and established, made that turn. Because that's the thing too. He was kind of an original Stone Cold. Freddie never changed anything he did. He just from years of being there and then taking on somebody like the Sheik, which shows you the kind of heat he got. Freddie was able to turn babyface and have this one, and they were able to set up this one last feud between Tolis and Blassie, and that feud would not have been possible had not the Sheik come in. Like I said, it was the Forrest Gump of wrestling. Like every major event or every turn of wrestling, he seemed to be there or be involved. And again, the thing that's fascinating about this book is a family man, worked hard, would travel extra miles to make it home at night, came from a big family, had a big family, was a, decent guy. Again, no promoter ever really was a great payoff guy. But, he had to kind of bully his way into the NWA, and he, was outlawed for a while, just way into the NWA, and, made money for a lot of people and had a lot of power because Detroit was a hot territory, but never liked, like Sam Mushnick did not like him. A lot of wrestlers, like the big promoters, didn't care for him. And the second in the 1974-75, when the territory started to die and his power waned and everything else, the thing that was kind of keeping him around started to even show a sense of fading. They threw him out of the NWA and, cut off all ties to him and, and left him hanging as far as sending talent to him. For whatever reason, I guess he was abrasive enough, or I don't know, maybe it was like a little bit of racism because he was Lebanese. He, they had some kind of grudge against him and, they never really cared for him. But
because each the point, I always wondered why they never put the belt on the Sheik.
Well,
because I mean, well, go ahead.
Well, no, back then it was a multitude. Well, number one, if you owned your own territory, you couldn't run your own business because again, the NWA champ wrestled 365, and you had to be able to work with anybody, and you had to be able to be at the time be a shooter and defend yourself. And you had to be able to handle the road. Ric Flair is the only traveling NWA champion that never broke under the schedule. Usually when the guy lost the belt, it was, it was shortly followed by him walking in the office and going, "I'm done. I don't know, who am I losing it to? I'm done. I don't want this anymore." And then they would really never want the NWA title again, because you have no life. Terry Funk gave it up because it cost him his marriage, and Jack Briscoe gave it up because he just literally, it's a famous story. He walked into the office. Well, no, yeah, he walked into the office one day and basically, I think it was Eddie Graham. He's like, "Look, I'm going to be in this town tonight. I'm losing it to somebody. Figure it out." I don't want to lose it. And then he dropped the belt and then apparently drove over a bridge after the match, stopped the car on the bridge, took his watch off and threw it into the lake. And I think was NWA. Yeah, it's never NWA champion again because it pushes you to the brink, but also, it also has to do with the wrestler standing. Like Ernie Ladd, it would have been probably a pay cut. With the Sheik, he owned the territory. Plus, I don't think his style.
And that belt would have never left that territory.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. Also, that's the other thing too: reliability and trust that you'll do the honors when your time is up. And also, like Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes wanted to be world champion, but Dusty Rhodes, was a big star in Florida, and a lot of people believe that Eddie, at least in his first two title runs, kind of had a hand in like, okay, I need a break from Dusty, but I can't have Dusty not here. And so some guys were too big of an attraction. Some guys were homesteaders. Some guys didn't have the right style, couldn't handle the road schedule, or were just like Ernie Ladd was a great attraction and a great wrestler, but he wasn't that like NWA going out Broadway. Same thing with the Sheik. You had to have a very specific, at least in that time, a very specific type of skill set and style and requirements to be the NWA heavyweight champion. And the Sheik would have been a good 1 week champion or something to be a transitional champion, but even then they would never do it because it was like, I don't think we could trust Eddie to give us back the belt or do the honors,
Now, did the book give us like an insight on, because I know he had to do a lot of research because there's not a lot out there with the Sheik. Did they give us more information about the man?
Yes. He was, his family was very American. They immigrated, but they essentially took to the American way of life very quickly, very salt of the earth. Like they were welders, blue collar, hardworking people, huge family. And of course, Eddie married young, basically went from his parents' house to moving in with his wife. He married an Irish girl, and they, also had a bunch of kids as well. He was a family man. Like I said, at the beginning of his career, he would work the Ohio, Indiana, the Midwest territory, but always would, take that extra time to travel back that night to be home. He would he worked the Amarillo territory pretty regularly, and he would go other places to do shots or be, but did not like to be away from home very often. So he was a family man in his early years. And as he slowly put together the character and built up the name and the draw, he did a lot of I'm going to go away for 3 weeks, wrestle for Capital Wrestling in DC and then come back. And, family was a big priority for him. And then, as in the 70s, as the business started to turn, age started to happen. And I think, the problem is sometimes success can be your downfall when you're so good at something for so long, and then the times change and you don't change with them, or you don't see that if I lose, that will actually help. You can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, I think that would happen to him.
Yeah, and he was a lavish spender. That was the other thing. When you live a lavish lifestyle, even if you're making the money to support it, the income can never go down because once you're, used to something, and he built up some ill will and basically guarded no loyalty to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Oh damn it, I always blank on his name. He was a promoter in Portland, and he was somebody that the wrestlers, I've read several biographies, that just had the loyalty and love to the extent that Roddy Piper, when he went to the WWE in his first run, the one town he would not wrestle in was Portland. Because he wouldn't wrestle again. I apologize to the fans. I'm blanking on the wrestler's name or the promoter's name, and I'm mad at myself. But also with the excesses of the 70s and living a lavish lifestyle, and at this point, the Sheik is in his 50s and slowing down. His body's breaking down. There was a amazing drug culture in the 70s.
They start getting into it.
And,
Yeah,
and the
Detroit.
thing is,
Now, before you go further, because that's where it falls into my expertise. Detroit was the capital of cocaine back then. Heavy. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't surprise me that he probably fell into that to a certain extent.
yeah, I mean, you couldn't avoid. I mean, cocaine was everywhere. Like, I mean, just look at the stuff. Like, okay, avocado green, right there. You want to know how powerful cocaine was in the 70s? Avocado green was considered a chic color that you should put on your wall. That is some good cocaine. Are you fucking any drug? Let me tell you something. Any drug that's got you and me in tight ass bell bottoms and polyester shirts, standing on red shag carpet, looking at a avocado green accent wall with a lava lamp in the background, going, "Now this is style. This is style." That is some good coke. I wish I could try it just once, because that's how, like wicker furniture, non-ironic, deck wicker furniture. That was cocaine. I mean, fucking, yeah. It was.
God dang it. They just keep it real.
I mean, my God, I would love to go.
You fucking keep clean.
Let me tell you something. If I could go back in time and grab 1 kilo of uncooked coke from the 70s and bring it back, I would never have to buy coke again, ever. I could probably cut it like 7 times before it even got diluted. But he got into drugs, and also he had the stereotypical midlife crisis and started having infidelities and having younger girlfriends, and his marriage with his wife started to fall apart. And also with the failing business and honestly his body breaking down, he couldn't do much of what he could do, and the loss of the NWA support, and finally people just, that've been waiting for this moment were just, and again, people didn't actively go out of his way to like, they just like, I don't have to talk to you anymore. I don't want to be around you. They just like literally the actual turning of the back and walking away. And he was a huge star and legend in Japan. And I didn't realize that he didn't get to Japan until like the 70s.
Yeah, he was a late bloomer today.
And even then, Baba apparently was not the biggest fan of his, but he had a run. He was able to make money and hang on for a few years, even though Detroit folded. And I believe
actually, wasn't it the Funks that kind of got him hooked up with Baba to begin with?
Yes, and they actually had a series of tag matches with the brothers versus Abdul. And you can find these matches online. I'll see if I can't dig some of them up and post that along with the Ron Simmons footage. But they had, because again, going back to talking about tournaments, even in the 70s, like the tag tournaments and the single and the champion carnival and the G1, they were big. The Grand Prix, there was a big deals. And essentially the Sheik would, much younger, Abdul the Butcher, and they would have these bloody, chaotic, crazy matches with the Funks, and they would do it every year. And yeah, he got him in. The Funks at one time were booking for All Japan, and they had got the Sheik in, and the Sheik was able, after Detroit closed, was able to kind of support himself for a few years by doing tours of Japan. Because, and I always kind of thought in my naivete, because he was such a legend in Japan, that he was there, one of the original guys to go over there, and not so. He was too busy here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And it was like, I thought he was up there with like the Destroyer and the Sharp Brothers and Fez and Blassie and the Funks and everything. He came in the tail end of the 70s, a little bit out of desperation. And then finally, and again, he would make appearances at outlaw shows and what have you. And then finally just, again, like taking less and less states. It would, if he went on a 2-week tour, it took like 6 weeks for him to recover. Finally, he had to retire in, I believe, 1982. And then that's when he took his young nephew, who would go on to become a huge star, under his wing and train him and show him the ropes of the wrestling world. And that young man would go on to be known as the legendary Sabu.
Now, here's the thing I wanted to touch on, because no one touches on this. He actually the Sheik was a first. He was the first, and at that time only, minority to have major stake in a pro wrestling territory.
Yes, actually true. Yes, sorry, I missed that point. Yes, no, that's actually yes, that's very true. He was the only only minority to,
But I mean, you kind
with
of
the
touched on,
exception of Baba, but Baba owned his company in Japan.
yeah, but see, you kind of touched on it because you said part of the reason why they turned his back could have been also racism in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, no, totally, because it was very much an old white boys club. If you go on the internet and look at some of the pictures they take of like all the, like, especially in their heyday, of all the old NWA promoters, it's like literally 50 dudes all basically looking the same with various degrees of middle-aged paunch, and then there's Baba, and maybe like you might see Chief Maivia like a little bit, but there's like, oh, there's Baba, like, and yeah, no, it was a huge, and even within the realm of these middle-aged white men, it was like a club within a club where you had your Sam Mushnick and your Eddie Grahams and the Dory Funk and I don't know why all of a sudden my brain is turning off, but like, you had all the major promotions of the big territory, kind of like, center of power. Barnett became a big deal in the NWA, where he actually became the treasurer of the NWA for a time, which was in charge of booking the NWA champion.
Yeah. So
and also Ed, I think he was a good looking guy in his day. If you get the book and look at some of the, he was a very snazzy dresser, wore only the best, and also was a good looking guy. Even in his old age, if you could overlook the forehead, like, was a good looking guy. And I think he was brash and confident. And again, they were making money hand over fist in Detroit, on top of what he had his hand in with the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto with the Tunnies, on top of, he would like leave on a Thursday, wrestle for WWA Hollywood, in LA on a Friday, be back in Detroit by Saturday, and then maybe next week I'm going to go to wrestle in the Garden, or, for Vince, or in Washington, D.C. He would go down to Florida, where he was friends with Eddie Graham, and like, again, and just pick up a big payday on top of, being the biggest star in his territory. So he was probably very brash. And not, and again, I think it took a lot to get close to him. And, people like Bobo Brazil and some other wrestlers were close to him. And there were some people that said really good things about him. Again, it was the wrestling business in that day and age, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, these people, stuck in their ways and a bunch of wannabe alpha males, like, grumbling at each other. Constantly trying to cut each other, the legs out from underneath them and everything. And, he started to train his nephew Sabu, and they actually had a match together. You can find pictures of that, where it was supposedly like, the final stage of his training, where I'm going to just beat my nephew to near death and see if he can take it. And then he became kind of the de facto agent for Sabu. He also trained another famous wrestler, a young Rob Van Dam, and essentially his last kind of run. I remember Sabu had like a cup of coffee in WCW, and he had a match on a Halloween Havoc against Jerry Lynn under a mask, and the Sheik was his manager for a minute. And then he, of course, I knew even then Sabu, when he went to WCW, I'm like, this is not going to last long. But Sabu did one of his last runs in the ring was with Onita. Onita remembered the Sheik from back in the day, because right as the Sheik was wrapping it up, Onita, before he blew out his knee, was a young boy. That's why Funk and Abdullah and the Sheik had like an attachment to Onita. And that's how Sabu got in with FMW. And, they had that famous fire match that almost killed everybody.
Yeah.
And he had several runs. And again, just, very immobile, kind of overweight. Can't blame the guy. Like at this point, I think he's in his 60s, nearing his 70s. But he went out there and he ran around. He looked a gimmick. He was wearing that belt that he had from his territory that him and Bobo traded back and forth. And he would go out there with the torch and spit fire and do the wild shit. And, that was his kind of last hurrah. And then I think he did like I said, that's when he did the brief thing at WCW, which didn't last. I'm amazed he had a pay-per-view match, to be honest with you. And then the Sheik kind of just, fell into obscurity. Kind of, had no choice but to retire.
Mm-hmm.
He would do some matches for WCW at the time and everything, but again, and then Farhad died of heart failure at 3:15 a.m. at Wilmington, Michigan Hospital on January 18, 2003. After a short illness, he was 76 years old. Here's a little interesting side note that I don't know if it's true. I tried to find it. It's not in the book, but in the early 2000s, right around the time before the Sheik died, this would have been 2000, possibly 2001, I think. There was a huge scandal here in Atlanta around, I believe it was Cheetah Strip Club. It was a big strip club here that had mob ties, and it was a big to-do. And, I used to, coming home for the midnight shift at a Kroger, I would listen to the radio, and there was a radio show called The Regular Guys. And they were covering, because this was like a big deal, like mafia and the strip club and blah, blah, blah. And I tried to dig for the clip, but there were people out front of the courthouse and everything when the guy who's supposedly this big mob guy or whatever was coming out from court. One of the reporters from the radio show, I think his name was Southside Johnny, was interviewing somebody, and supposedly it was the Sheik. And the way he described him, it sounded like the Sheik, and it kind of would make sense that he might be in Atlanta around. I mean, maybe his son, like I said, his nephew was wrestling somewhere, or WCW was doing something. But he had a because no one ever heard the Sheik speak, and again, he had no accent. He grew up in Michigan. He had a very kind of gruff, kind of grizzled voice, somebody who was in his 70s. And apparently he went to the Cheetah Strip Club quite a bit. And the reason why I think it was the Sheik, because then the reporter egged the Sheik to run down the street to the guy that was being accused of being tied with the mob and running an illegal strip club. Like, yeah, go over and say hello, whatever. So he kind of got on the radio. You could hear like them jogging, and he was talking about like this was a pretty hefty dude. So he was trying to get a good trot going. And the reason why I believe that it really was the Sheik was because you would have to be a fan, especially in like 2000, to make up a story and use the Sheik. And even for like a hardcore fan like us, I'm like, wow, that's a deep, deep cut. But the guy sounded like kind of your average old Midwestern man. And I actually, that was kind of the end. Like the guy wouldn't talk to whatever, and it just, the segment ended. But I really do believe one day coming home from my shitty Kroger job on the midnight shift, I got to hear the Sheik speak on Atlanta radio. Because, I mean, if the guy made it up, if somebody involved in that lied, one, kudos to you for pulling out the fucking deepest of B-sides, picking a wrestler that, but also, I mean, if the guy lied about who it was, again, that's a hell of a deep cut. But like, I tried to dig and like do research, see if I couldn't dig up the clip, and I still kind of, when I remember to do it, I still try to see if I can't find it. It's got to be in a recording somewhere. But I actually got to hear the Sheik speak, and that's just my little anecdote about the Sheik, because nobody really there's no interview. He never did an interview. Like Sabu now does interviews, and he sounds like a guy from the Midwest.
Yeah.
But no, the Sheik was a truly historic character. He was there for some of the biggest moments in wrestling. He was part of one of the biggest, longest running historical feuds with Bobo Brazil. He, being basically the first, like you said, the first ethnic man to own a territory, being there for the invention of studio wrestling, being there for the Rock Hudson, Jim Barnett scandal, and being able to buy the territory, being one of the first truly big traveling wrestling attractions, like with that kind of gimmick, being the first quote unquote Sheik of wrestling, the name, like again, association with Vince McMahon and Eddie Graham and, every major name, Johnny Valentine, Bobo Brazil, Chief J Strongbow, Andre the Giant, et cetera, et cetera. If he was a major promoter, if it was a major arena, if it was a major development in pro wrestling between 1946 to like 1980, the Sheik honestly was either there, drew money there, or had a hand in it. And it is amazing that as much as I know or that I read, that I didn't know half of this shit, to the point where finding out he had a drug habit was the least surprising by the time I got to that part of the book. Brian Solomon really should be proud of this book because the amount, and again, like still shrouded in secrecy to this day, to be able to find the people and get them to talk about this and dig for this information and then put it together in such a real well-written manner. There's the real skill, because you can fill a book full of facts and dates, but to make it interesting to read, I can't recommend this book enough. And I tip my hat to Brian R. Solomon. You're going to have a hard time topping this achievement on your next book. And also, Kavanaugh needs to send me his fucking address so I can send him the extra copy.
Well, I will give you my fucking address after we get off of here.
Yeah. So, but no, honestly, my hat's off to to Brian R. Solomon. Go check out Blood and Fire and the unbelievable real life story of wrestling's original Sheik. You get it on various sites, and you can now also get the audiobook, and there's also a Kindle. And it might be one of the best wrestling books I ever read. And it was so much, like, basically we would just have to do a show on the book in order to get into, there's a lot of stuff we didn't get into and a lot of details because the book is so dense and he did so much in his life. We would have to basically dedicate an entire show to just covering this book. So it's really, it's a really interesting and a great book. And Brian Solomon should be very proud of it. And I'm also very happy that we were finally, after promising it for weeks, and then after one mistake, that we were finally able to bring you the book review and an ode to the old school of the original Sheik.
Yes, most definitely. So with that being said, we are done with the show. I just know next time I want to touch on Julia Hart because I smell a new age Luna for Sean with her for what I saw what happened last night with AEW. But we'll talk about that the next show because we done went damn near almost 3 hours with this motherfucker. So with that being said, people, Mr. Pilgrim, tell everybody where they can spend money on you, my brother.
I'm currently working on that. I closed everything down to reopening it. By the end of this month in June, platforms will be open and you will be able to purchase a few videos, and I'm going to be adding them as I can get them edited, but also download them. I'll be on X Bunny site. I'll be on ManyVids. I'll be on Fan Centro, as well as Clips for Sale and any other Fansly. They're going to be a slow progression as I basically am trying to do 4 things at once. But also you can find me on Instagram at Billy Pilgrim 3X or my Twitter, Billy Pilgrim XXX. And so don't get me, that's actually now what I'm going to do. I'm basically going to go pee, and then I'm going to sit in front of my computer and create new curse words as I edit stuff, organize my hard drive, and work on post-production, which is I can fuck all day and come up with ideas as to how and why I'm fucking you. The post-production has been my utter weakness. And so I'm trying to correct it now so that by the first week of June, fans will be able to go and buy stuff. Somebody asked me right before the show about custom videos. I'll be offering custom solo videos. If you want custom videos with me and somebody else, I could also do that. That's obviously going to cost more because, people don't work for free, but I am going to be offering all that kind of stuff and everything. And so get ready. I'll be boring you greatly with shilling for people to spend money on me.
Most definitely. And so with that being said, you know how we end these shows, no matter what show it is, here on the Smoke This Over podcast family. That's right, people. Life is a learning experience. What's the point of the experience if you didn't learn anything? Smoke this over. Thank you for coming. Billy, sign off.
Yep. And thank you again for staying with us for another one of these marathon shows. And until next time, when it's Vader time, we'll see you then.
Black Wall Street is now online, baby. That's right. Visit the GW District. Shop the very best in men's and women's apparel and accessories, home decor, office supplies, books, pantry items, and so much more. The GW District is a retail marketplace of Black-owned products and media. We're both veteran and Black-owned, and we're bringing you the best online shopping experience with products made by small businesses. Come and experience the GW District difference today at shopgwdistrict.com. That's shopgwdistrict.com. The GW District, a retail marketplace of Black-owned products and media.
That's right. That's right.